We'll call the meeting to order at 7:06 for our audience members. Sorry for the delay. Roll call. I think we're all here. We need a motion. Excuse me, before we move to adopt the agenda, I have one addition, which under committee reports, under the document review, I'd like to add that we appoint another board member to the document review committee. That's all I have.
I have an addendum I'd like to put in under continuing business 9. The entity, there's an A. Can we add B? And I'd like to be able to have a budget calendar discussion with the board, please. If that would be possible.
And Andrew, I'm going to add under long range planning, just an announcement that we'll be opening. We have 2 open positions. We will be posting through the community for applicants.
Okay. Everyone good on those additions? Need a motion to approve the agenda.
Move to approve the adopted agenda. Amended adopted agenda.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye or raising your hand. All those opposed? Looking like none. Motion carries. Move into our announcements. We'll go ahead and start with the COVID-19 status update. Go ahead, Joe and Norm.
Good evening, everyone. Long time no see. Go ahead, Norm. I'm going to let you address this.
I'll go ahead and start then. Ladies and gentlemen, members watching online, today is the COVID-19 update as presented.
We can't hear him
Norm?
well.
Oh, thanks.
I can't hear you.
Let's see what's going on with my microphone. Hold on one moment. Okay, is that any better?
Oh,
Way
much better.
Okay. Here's tonight's update on the COVID-19 pandemic for Whatcom County and Sudden Valley. Common operating picture as of 7/23/2020. Whatcom County confirmed cases is 807, 37 deaths. Whatcom County's total tests, 28,150. Percentage of positive tests is 2.9%. The Washington State confirmed cases 49,247. However, a recent update being shared by the Seattle media says that's upwards of 50,000 or pretty close to it. Not confirmed yet. Deaths 5,211. Total tests in the state 855,152 with a percentage positive 5.8%. Whatcom County current metrics, and this is off the risk assessment dashboard for phase 2. We are currently failing the metrics per 100,000 for newly diagnosed cases, failing the metrics for number of individuals tested for new cases during the prior week, percentage of individual testing positive for COVID, where that is also not meeting goal. Metric percentage of licensed beds occupied by patients not meeting goal. As of 7/23 today, the current value is 85.9% occupied beds with a goal of being less than 80%. And we are meeting goal for percentage of licensed beds occupied by COVID-19 cases. With that stated, St. Joseph Hospital is reporting that they have 9 cases that they're treating currently of COVID. Washington State overall metrics currently are not meeting the first 3 of the 5 metrics I just spoke of. They're not meeting goal as a state. The big news today is Governor Inslee spoke concerning the response to the virus and has made some changes to phase 2 and phase 3, mainly targeted toward restaurants, dining facilities, bars, and indoor activities. The synopsis of those discussions that he put through his presser. His indoor services at bars will be closed. He's defined bars as taverns, breweries, wineries, and distilleries. However, outdoor service is okay. Restaurants will not be able to serve alcohol after 10 p.m. Restaurants will be restricted to serving the same household indoor, restricted to serving the same household members at 5 people at a table. If you have somebody that is not from your household, they are to sit outside, is his example he used. Game areas of restaurants such as pool tables, darts, and video games will be closed until phase 4. Phase 3 will be limited to 5 persons per table on total occupancy and limited to 50%. Ceremonies for weddings and funerals will be allowed. However, receptions will be prohibited. Indoor fitness under phase 2, 5 people are allowed at any time in an indoor fitness service, not including staff. And you must meet all the safety guidelines for that phase. Phase 3 counties will be limited to 25% and group classes will be limited to 10, not including the instructor. Entertainment and recreational facilities such as mini golf, bowling alleys, and arcades are prohibited from opening until phase 4. Indoor card rooms are also prohibited until opening to phase 4. Movie theaters will be limited to 25% occupancy in phase 3. And the major change to the masking requirements currently under Mask Up Washington, masking will be required in all common areas. And the example he used is things like elevators, common rooms, those kind of spaces that are utilized. Indoor requirements for dining, the date that goes into effect, July 30th. Weddings and funerals, that will sail in on August 6th. And the masking enhancements as described by Secretary Weissman and the governor will start Saturday. As stated, our current public health orders for Whatcom County, Mask Up Washington, and the new amended guidelines, which will start Saturday, and we are still currently in phase 2. Counties are not going to be able to apply to transition. The 28th that was specified by the governor previously will likely be extended. He has not listed as to when that extension will occur. Incident command objectives at Whatcom Unified are unchanged. We are in operational period 16. Whatcom County Public Health and Whatcom Unified have published their results of the low barrier testing that occurred at Civic Field the last 2 weekends. That is a test site and will not be open this weekend currently. Those statistics indicate that 29.3% of the tested people averaged 19 to 29 and 25.4 were between the ages of 30 and 49. About 70% of the people tested reported lived in Bellingham. Very few individuals came from outside of the county. 86% of those tested people reported they had health insurance. 33.5% reported that they have a primary health care provider. 11.3% of the people tested say they were close contacts of a confirmed case of COVID-19. 23.7% reported that they had symptoms and were not a close contact of a confirmed case of COVID-19, and 64.5% wanted to be tested and screened for information purposes only. Recent report from the Bellingham Herald involving the briefing given by the public health director at county council meeting that occurred on Tuesday. There were a total of 1,814 people tested during the test site. The cost per Whatcom County per test was $70 per test, and the cost for 4 days of the project was $126,000. The report in the Herald also states that the public health director said that this test program currently is unsustainable. Sudden Valley objectives, our phase 3 transition is on hold until the governor makes the decision to move the state forward. Our current operational status for phase 2 is unchanged. Our meeting schedule for COVID-19 is unchanged. Our external memberships external messaging in response to the membership frequency is unchanged. And again, Unified Command and the Health Department are requesting that citizens go to www.watkincovid.com for your official information and the trusted links that are listed to the Health Department and the state. At this time, are there any questions? Yes, Director.
So are they, I thought I saw an email that they were not doing the COVID testing this weekend at Civic Field.
That is correct. That is
Okay.
a test project, and they want clearly stated today during the command brief to cascade that out, that there is going to be no testing at Civic. However, the city of Linden does have a drive-through testing facility at the Rite Aid in Linden that is similar to the low barrier that you've got. And the health department also has issued guidelines for anybody for requesting to have testing.
Okay, thank you. And then, so essentially, we're taking a few steps backwards, aren't we?
That's what the numbers indicate, yes.
Okay, yeah. And so our freedoms have been restricted a little bit. Thank you for telling us that. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yes, Director Bradley.
Hi, I guess I have a question. It's going to be for either Joe or Maddie. Do we know at what point will we say we're not going to open the pools because we're running out of time here? And then there was a post that Semiahmoo had people making reservations for their pool. I don't know if if you even entertain that, or if we're, at what point will Sudden Valley say, we're not going to open the pools this year?
Linda, we do have a drop dead date on that, and that is the end of this month.
Okay.
Yeah, regarding the capacity for pools, all the pools that I've seen, I guess, except Semiahmoo, are not open because the maximum capacity is 5 people in the pool. And as you know, pools are extremely expensive and difficult to run and require lifeguards and people to check injury waivers and all that stuff. And so it's interesting that they chose to open. I mean, they are a hotel. It's obviously a different industry, but that's what we're working with.
That's what I responded to, but I thought, I'm going to ask as long as we're talking about going backward.
And if there are any more questions, we'll gladly take those. If not, thank you for your patience and indulgence.
Thank you so much, Norm. I see a hand. I don't want to step on AJ's toes. Go ahead.
This isn't for Norm. Sorry, Norm. Did we acknowledge that Rob was not here?
Oh, good
Oh,
point. Where
Rob
is Rob?
Gibbs.
Rob mentioned that he was trying to get back in time for the meeting, but did indicate that he may not make it this evening. So he does have an excused absence because he did let me know in advance.
Okay, just make sure. Thank you.
No, thank
I've
you.
got-
Yeah, we didn't. Yeah, good. Aye, Joshua. Thanks.
I have a couple of announcements. Just openings that we have. We still have an opening in ACC for a vacancy that's going to close on the 29th of this month. I'll reach out to Rich unless he wants to answer me now. If he needs any more applicants or if you have a sufficient number. And then we have a board vacancy that's open until August 10th. And last but not least, there's the AGM board candidates. Their applications are out there now, and that closes on September 8th. And I am happy to say that I have 2 applications safely placed in the safe from 2 different people for candidates for the AGM.
Linda, as far as I know, I still only have 1 applicant, so we don't have enough as of yet.
Okay, thank you.
Any other announcements? I just have one, was pinged. I think we're all pinged about the, community member had a really great idea about a drive-in movie theater. And so lots of details, obviously, to hash out on that front, but I think it's a great idea. I think all of us think it's probably a really good idea. I was wondering if maybe one or two other board members want to work with me to help see if we can carry out that that really good idea to make it a possibility this season.
Andrew,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's awesome. I think it would be fun, but I'm a little worried now with the new report that we got in with these numbers. So, you know, I think it might be kind of cool to plan it, at least get the logistics down. And even if like the world turns back to peaceful harmony without all this stuff, we still do it next year. But I mean, I don't know. I feel weird like getting people together in a bunch, even if it's like still considered social distancing, you know? I don't know. I could be wrong.
No, yeah, you're absolutely right. And just hearing the report, just digesting what all of that means. So it may in fact limit the ability to do something. I was just, trying to see. I agree with you. I think we should get the logistics down and see what options we have. And maybe it is something for next season. Is that something you'd be willing to work on? Or
Oh yeah, I'd love to help you with that.
okay, thanks.
If the idea is that we stay in our cars, I mean, the drive-in theater and wherever that is, by Woodby, it's open year round. So, and sometimes even fall is a little bit better because you don't have to start the meeting at 9:30. So I think that we have a pretty big window for an outdoor drive-in movie until it gets too rainy. But there's a fairly big window there that if things get better, possibly we could still do it, in a September or even October timeframe.
If your kids can stay in the car that long, that's
I have taken them to the drive-in movie. We just don't stay for both movies because we get home at 2 a.m.
gotcha.
Thank you both for your comments. Since you spoke up, Karen, is that an indication that you'd like to help out, or? I won't hold it to you. Joshua and I can probably do a good job.
I'd be willing to help out on that as well, Andrew.
Okay, I've got Joshua, Paula.
I don't want to say no, I won't, but I'm feeling like I have plenty of stuff going on right now. I'm not trying to pawn it off. It does seem like it fits very well with Parks and Trails, but I'm not going to say yes just yet, but I'm sure someone will figure out a way to get me to do it if you really need the help.
Oh, well, we have two. Sorry, I'm on mute. We have two members, so I think we're all set. Thanks. If anyone else changes their mind and wants to get involved, just let one of us know and we'll loop you in. That's all I have. Any other announcements before we move into property owner comments? Hearing none, we'll move into property owner comments. Go ahead, John.
All right. Yep. We can bring people over who'd like to add their comments. Simply use the raise hand feature in Zoom. We do have a number of people in the audience tonight, but it should be at the bottom of your screen if you're using it on a PC, or I believe even on the app. Just tap the screen. There should be something that says raise hand. And seeing no call in tonight, so won't need the phone instructions there, but it looks like no hands raised at this point.
Okay, thanks, John. We'll move into our general manager's report. Go ahead, Joe.
Good evening, everyone. As we have been doing since this COVID stuff, my report is submitted. I know everybody always has a few questions, so fire away. Anytime, Linda, what's up?
Will you just talk to us a little bit about the doc? You did a doc update. And I guess a couple things I'm wondering is, you have in here, this means we may be required to submit documentation. When will we know from the county or from our subcontractor when we may need to do that? And what sort of additional permitting or costs are going to be associated with this change in the project?
I can take that, Joe, if you want.
Go ahead, Maddie.
Yeah, we actually have really good news there. I believe our permits have gotten like a verbal yes, like they're going to issue them any day now. So it doesn't look like they're actually going to be requiring that from us. It'd be pretty silly because it's an active marina with lots of boats and infrastructure. I don't know why they'd want to look at some type of big ecological potential impacts there, you know. So we should be getting the permits honestly any day. And then they're able to construct it within a week and then bring it out. So we're getting on them about giving us those permits before we pay them. So.
Okay, that's good news. It's like, sometimes you don't know because it says that, well, we may have to do this. And it's like, it's nice to know that the county has said, nah, we're gonna go ahead and do it. You know, I think having people use the one locked section of the floating docks to be able to you know, load passengers and stuff. I don't know that that's a good answer, you know, that we do that for any length of time unless we're forced to.
Yeah, we got that submerged section removed. So at least we're not dealing with that safety concern now. But using that end dock, the 2 end slips there has worked pretty well. So it worked out this season, but I'm gonna be happy to get a new one.
Thank you.
Also, Linda, I did speak with a resident a couple of days ago. Lady called me and said that her brother, who does not live here anymore, lives, I'm not sure what state, but did the original engineer and design work for the marina. So she is trying to get in touch with him to give me a call to see if there was maybe an engineered set of drawings somewhere that he did for the marina that might show that dock.
Ooh, that would be nice.
Yeah. Oh, believe me, I was jumping up and down when she was telling me that. I was like, perfect. We can just, you know, it'll cut a lot of headaches out.
Well, originally there were supposed to be 3 docks. So there's somebody that used to live here, they may still, that had pictures of the initial idea that there would have been 3 of those docks instead of just 2.
Yeah. But you know, the good thing is hopefully there's a set of engineered drawings.
That would be nice.
It kind of feels like a Nancy Drew mystery.
You know, Steffi, anytime you're dealing with stuff that has been, you know, like this community has been around since the early 70s, when regulations were so different.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just, you know, it's difficult sometimes.
Right.
I have a question, Joe, and I don't know who's going to answer this or if it might even be Norm. So I'm looking on page 20 and it talks about the food distribution and the meals and stuff.
Yes.
From what a lot of the districts are talking about, they're saying that they're going to be going to virtual. They're not going to be going back in the classrooms. So is the program to furnish meals going to continue then, or nobody's said yet?
I'll take that one, Joe.
Okay.
That program is administered under the Bellingham School District, as we know. And currently, they have not issued any indication that they're going to extend past the date when school is supposed to start back up. However, with that said, the briefing that was given to both the Unified Command and the County Council from the school district is a lot of those questions are not fully planned for yet because there's a lot of unknowns, and this is one of them. So I'm in constant contact with them about the food distribution program. And if there's any changes to it, we'll get as much notice as they can give us.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Andrew.
thanks for the report. A lot of good work going on. Clearly, I'm interested in learning more about this Eagle Scout project, which sounds like another Eagle Scout project other than the one we've all recently known about. Do you want to
Yeah,
just
this one just
unpack
came
that a bit?
up. Yeah, this just came up beginning of the week. The guy, the young boy is 18, and with everything going on, if anybody knows, once you turn 18, you can't do an Eagle Scout project. You're done. You just can't do it. And he is what they did is BSA has extended a 3-month window for him to get a small project done so he can do his Eagle Scout. So he's going to try to work on one of the trails just to put some steps in, just a real small, quick little project so he can at least get a project done.
That's great. That's awesome. Good to hear. Good to hear there's more of those projects taking place. Thanks
Yeah.
for carrying that out.
Well, I would like to see a ton more out here. It's a good thing for the community. It's a good thing for the young men who do it, or ladies now who can be Eagle Scouts. Yes, Paul.
I was going to bring that one up as well, and also bring up the free little library at Maple Leaf. I think those are so cool, especially right now. So I'm glad to see that one moving forward as well. I had two questions. One on the number of employees by month. So it looks like we're down in July by about 19 employees. Is that mostly attributable to Parks and Rec?
Yes, last year we had lifeguards and we had rec employees, and we don't this year.
Okay. Are any of those maintenance employee? I mean, are we down in maintenance?
Yeah.
Okay. So that might kind of go to my question over in maintenance. The backlog is listed. Are we making, I know we were looking at making some progress on some of that backlog when we were shut down and we were working on that. How are we doing on our backlog in maintenance?
It rolls depending on who is available to work. We've had some people coming in and out due to just not feeling well. And Sudden Valley taking all the precautions that we can. So some of that, it's a rolling stock right now with my staff. So whenever, I might have 2 guys or 3 guys, and I might only have a guy, depending on what's going, if someone's not feeling good and stuff like that. So, we're doing everything we can to stay caught up with all of that. So, but a lot of it is, if someone's not feeling good, we do not want them in here potentially spreading the virus. Whether they have it or not, we're taking all the precautions we can on our end.
I'm actually glad to hear that. I'm experiencing the same. I've had 4 people out, not a single one with COVID, but it's added up to over 2 weeks of people being off just to make sure that they're not sick. So, yeah. And then the last question that I had was on golf. I was really pleasantly surprised to see golf revenue was, well, it was just a heck of a lot better than I thought it would be, to be honest with you. And I know that we had the 16,000 loss in revenue in the outing revenue. And yet if I'm looking at this right, 8% behind last year at this same time, which being closed down for a couple of months was, again, surprising to me. What are we seeing more greens fees? Where are we seeing that kind of make up from what we had talked about previously?
It's just general play. People playing. Yeah, because
even with the rain?
Yeah, even, it's odd. People do play in the rain out here, which is something that is not used to on the East Coast. If it rains, they don't play. But here they do. But also, there's still people who are working from home, so they can sneak out and grab a quick 9 holes, pop back in and still do the office. So that's where we're seeing more of it. I do know June is one of our busier months for outings, and we would have had, in June, we would have had about another, I want to say 16, 17,000 in revenue just from outings. So we would have been probably relatively flat, but with the not allowed to do big shotguns, it makes it kind of hard to do events because they don't want to do tea times, but which I don't understand because they still can't do dinner. So, part of the reason to do a shotgun is get everybody on, everybody off, go have some drinks and dinner. But without the dinner, it would make sense to just do tea times. But again, you can't always force people to do what you need them to do sometimes.
Right. Well, I'll look forward to see next month's numbers and see how that plays out. Thanks.
So,
AJ.
question following up on Paula's first question. So last year in July, 70 employees, this year in July, 51. And you just stated that's because we don't have lifeguards and rec staff on. Is that correct?
Yeah, they're not on payroll because we don't have anybody, they're not working right now.
But we were told that the 12 employee jump from April to May was the hiring of lifeguards, specifically 12 of them.
Lisa?
You know
In
what?
case the pool
I
open.
I'll check on that and find out I mean, that was under the assumption, and I can check and see exactly who that was. But just
Well,
know
I
that,
mean, that's what we were told. I distinctly remember it.
Well,
yeah,
just
oh no,
to
I
clarify,
understand. And
correct,
if I was incorrect, I will certainly let you know. But I do believe that was true, but you're right, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
yeah, well,
Considering
there
that-
might be a difference because, you know, we hired the lifeguards, so they're in our system, but they're obviously not being paid. So I don't know how that works out with the report.
Yeah, and that's
I'll
fine.
find out. I'll
but
find out and get back to you,
We've been,
AJ.
I've asked numerous questions on these two spreadsheets a bunch of times, and I guess, you know, I've been told numerous times that we, you know, because we've, you know, the employee difference and stuff, and that we've kept people, some of these employees aren't necessarily all being paid or whatever. Fine, but I don't understand how last year we needed 70 employees, and then now, when we've been told previously that we hired lifeguards, now it's saying that we're not, that those aren't included.
The 51 people that you're seeing there are people that were actually given a paycheck this month, whether it was just 2 hours working on the golf carts or a full-time employee. Those are just bodies. Those are not full-time equivalent people. So with regards to July, I mean, last year we had a lot more people that were seasonal workers in all departments. And we're just not taking on as many this year because we're trying to keep things sensible.
Yeah, I guess I just feel like I'm getting some conflicting statements from previous meetings, and I'm a little bit confused by it.
I can clarify it.
Because we've been told previously too that those numbers include employees who are on our books who aren't getting paid as well. Because I've asked about those numbers multiple times before. And so I guess
Let me do some research on this.
I'd like a bit more clarification on that.
Okay, I'm happy to do that.
And then I also am wondering on that same page, if you move down to the FTE headcount by department, I am wondering, I guess, why, when we just discussed the maintenance backlog that we have and everything, why is Golf Enterprises FTE headcount able to exceed our current budget documents FTE headcount for the budget proposal, and we have a maintenance that's not meeting what our budget says we have for FTEs? Same with, it looks like Parks and Rec is low as well, although I think you just said that's because some of the employees are furloughed with the community center closed. But I guess I'm just curious as why Golf is showing basically almost 17 FTE headcount by department when the FTE proposed budget document that we were given at our 2 budget meetings for 2020, Gulf Enterprise is 12.8, and for 2021, it's proposed remaining flat at 12.8.
I can answer that question. So basically, when you see the FTE document in this manager's report, that's giving you the FTE count for only the last 2 pay periods versus the FTE count in the budget document that you got. That's the total FTE period over the span of the entire year. So since we're in a seasonal time period for golf, you'll see the FTE counts for like a 30-day time period ticking up versus over the course of the year.
Okay. Why is it that maintenance is falling short of its budgeted FTE amount?
It could
I
be
don't consider maintenance a seasonal activity.
Yeah, it could. Now, maintenance also at this time, I'd have to flip back and look at it, but they also have quite a few people who work on roads at this time of the year.
Yeah, but roads is paid out of a completely separate fund. And we were told at a previous meeting that I think most of those people were hired for that specific purpose, except for half of Bruce's time. Is that what we were told at the budget meetings?
I believe so, yes.
Now, what we do, AJ, a couple of the guys from general maintenance do cross over and do work on roads and the CVC stuff. Some of the stuff too is, this is hour-based driven. And like I said, we've had some guys who have been rotating in, rotating out.
Okay.
Andrew?
Yeah, any further questions for Joe? Sorry, I wasn't sure if AJ was finished. Okay, thanks, Joe. Good report, as always. We'll move into our capital requests. Go ahead, Karen.
Well, I'm going to turn this over to, well, no, I guess, hold on, capital requests first, sorry. So we have several, these are all related to roads, and they are all from our reserve study. So none of these with a one kind of interesting little nuance in one of the culverts is anything new that isn't in our reserve study. But what's the best way to do this, Joe? Do you want me to turn it over to you to
I'll go over it.
explain them? Okay.
Yeah, basically what the first on page 21 is, this is for, this is for the retaining wall on Windward Drive. This has been, if anybody knows where it is, it's right by coming gate 1, and it's up on the left up to the mailboxes. This is a railroad tie wall that has been deteriorating for years, and it was slated to be done, I believe a couple years ago, if I'm not mistaken, but it is now deteriorating to the point where it's starting to fall down even more, and there is a walkway that people use to walk in and out of gate 1 and the mailboxes, or just generally around Sudden Valley. So this is to replace that entire wall from the cart path on where you go from 10 to 11 all the way up to the mailbox. There's 2 fire hydrants in there. There's a set of steps, and that's what this capital request is for.
Joe, if I read correctly in this, are they gonna take up that sidewalk?
Yes, they're gonna relay that.
Is it cement now, or is that, is
Cement.
it also, is it just asphalt like the road?
It's cement.
But they're gonna replace it with asphalt, or they're gonna replace it with cement?
It's supposed to replace it with like kind cement.
Okay.
Should we have a motion for this before we get into discussion?
Sure, let me go ahead and make the motion. So I move that the board approves a capital roads allocation not to exceed $157,150.62 for the Windward retaining wall, Windward Drive retaining wall.
Second,
Do I also add to that that the money be taken from the capital roads fund?
Oh, sorry, I said it was from the, I thought I said that, but yes, if I didn't, I apologize.
Discussion.
Karen, you did say capital roads allocation.
Okay.
Linda, go ahead.
I have a couple of questions on, there's part of the cost of this, the combined project is an impact design of $7,000 for that. There's a couple of that included, I believe this is, tell me this is part drainage also, isn't it?
Yes, yes. What I did is you see the on July 1st, what you have is the construction for Windward Wall as well as the drainage. So there's some, what I did is they bid them all, they put the packages all as one, the drainage and the wall as well as the culverts. So when I did this, I broke it out so that everybody could see it broken out a little bit better. And I took just half of the design fees, the P&W services, and geotech allowance for testing, and just basically cut it in half and put it to each of the projects instead of just tying it all to one. Because if you don't want to do, I mean, we could not do any of it, but I just broke it out that way to get the numbers to add up right.
The only question I have for you that I'd like you to take a look at is
Sure.
we've got some old outstanding roads projects from 9901, the retaining wall design. We spent, it looks like 12,000 and there's still a remaining 17,950 in there. And then there's also the Windward drainage design, which is project 9918. And that's, it looks like that was totally invoiced and done. And yet we've got another 7,000 in this project. Is that part of what still is remaining? It's kind of like you've got it lumped in there and it's going to be a new project, but we've also got an open project for retaining wall design that all wasn't used of.
Okay. Well, the retaining wall is different from the drainage.
Oh, I understand that, but that's what I'm saying. But I'm saying we have these two open projects. One, we expended all the money, it looks like. But the retaining wall design, there's still like 17,000 in there. And I'm saying, you've got 7,000 in this new project. And I'm saying, then should we be closing this old project that's hanging open?
Yeah, that old project should be closed.
Okay, that's my only
That should be
question.
closed. That should be closed.
Because then you could take that money back into
Right,
the
and
roads
then-
fund.
Right, and then come bring it back out on this one. That should be closed, yes.
Okay, that works. Thank you. That's my only question.
Hey, Linda, were you talking about the Windward drainage design?
No, the drainage design, it looks like we spent all of that,
Yeah, that one's closed.
but the other one is open and there's still that 17. And if we're now using that design money in this project, then that one should get closed. Take that 17,000 and put it back into roads that then can be used for this. That's all. Just kind of makes sense because that one's still open.
Let's see here. Yeah, that one is still open, technically.
Yep. That's just some work for you and Joe to do. That's all.
Which one is still open?
9901.
Or what's the project? Sorry.
It's
When-
called the Windward Drive Retaining Wall Design. There was initial 30,000 budgeted back in 2016. And we've been invoiced $12,043. And and I don't know when that was done, but there's still another 17,957 remaining. And if we don't need to use that and we really could close it because they've captured it all in this new project, we could then close that project, return that money to roads, and we've closed another project rather than it's just hanging there.
Okay, to follow up on that then, page 23. This is all of the Windward Drive stuff together. So we have a design contract or design capital project that's already open for these projects, but there's design money being shown on this itemized report.
Yeah, that's what Linda was talking about. So the design fee from project was 9918, Linda?
9918,
Yep.
that's the drainage design. That's all used up.
9901. That should be closed
9901,
out.
yep.
It should have been closed out, and it would go back into roads, and then this would finish the whole project up. Instead of that, AJ, that should have been closed out.
I know, but why are we showing design money in our construction capital request?
Because it's part of the capital.
Design is not part of the construction capital request. That should have already been accomplished. That work's already been done because we've bid it. So how could we be asking for the money for it now?
We haven't been invoiced for it yet.
Well, then it should be invoiced under that other project for the design, not here.
Well, it's still the same.
And Linda just said that the retaining wall had 12,000 billed to it, and I don't know if it's just coincidence, but those two $12,000 charges, those two design charges at the top of this itemized report add up to about 12 grand. And I'm concerned that that's duplicate. Because paying for the design would have included site survey, design, permit applications, design oversight. I'm not sure what that means exactly. Permit submittal fees and bid package issuance is all considered design, not construction. And this is a construction capital request, not a design capital request.
Well, we generally lump them together so that you can see the design as well as the construction. So everybody can see it right there.
Yeah, I get that, but you're requesting additional money for it when it's already been requested.
I think
That's
what
why
they're
I
saying-
made my recommendation, AJ, is if we've got this money hanging around, that's just like a dangling participle there, like a carrot. And if now we've used it in this new project, let's just close out that project because it will get captured in a brand new project that's going to be a 2020 project. That's all. And yeah, you're right. Usually we do design one year and construction another. And I don't know if this is unique or because it's been hanging around since 2016, you know?
What I'm saying is I consider it unacceptable that we're requesting design money in a construction capital request when there's already a design capital request for those projects. And it appears to me that this is, without seeing all the itemized invoices for what's gone on during the design of this process, but it appears to me that this is double dipping. Money being paid to that consultant. All of that work should have already been done already. So there's no way he doesn't do that work and then we ask for the money after he's done the work. That's not an appropriate way to go about business. So I'm just confused as to how this is being shown, and I guess I feel like I'm not really getting a good answer here, and I don't really feel comfortable voting on this in light of that. I also have some other concerns as well. But do we have an answer to that? Or, I mean, then maybe it's not possible to just pull it up on the spot here.
Probably not, because I don't have the stuff in front of me.
Yeah.
I can get you that, AJ, if you want to put this on hold.
You know, I'm willing to continue any further discussion items we have, but I'll be honest, I'm feeling the need to potentially postpone this until the next meeting, or if we can get the documentation and review this stuff, maybe we could have a quick board meeting called just to approve this.
I can see if I can have you, the answer to the 7,000 and 5,100, I can see if I get that for you by tomorrow night.
Okay, go ahead, Karen.
Oh, I was just saying, I thought I heard earlier, Joe, you said we have not been invoiced for the design. Is that your?
I have not seen an invoice come across my desk for this design work.
Okay, so whatever charges we are seeing on this 2016 project, that's something that you are not aware of what it is?
I haven't seen it, but what I can do, Karen, is I can get with P&W tomorrow and get a breakdown for that. So we can put that on. We can put that on hold.
I think I know what that 12,000 might be, if I can interject here. When we first were interested in that project, and somebody can tell me I'm wrong, Wilson Engineering was asked to provide us options for how we could replace the wall. And there's actually a report that's there, and the different kinds of costs that would be associated with that. And I wonder if that's what this 12,000 is that we initially paid out to Wilson Engineering for those. I think they gave us 3 options, and I'll be happy to send it to anybody that wants it.
I think you could be right, Linda, and I think that was from 2016, correct?
I
Around
think
the time
so.
we opened this
Initially,
project.
when they wanted to know how much is it going to cost to build the wall, and they gave them, there are different kinds of blocks, and I think I can't remember what it all was. Cement, I think, to actually build a cement retaining wall. I'd have to go back. I have the documents. I just don't have them at my fingertips. But I think
Okay,
that's
but-
maybe what that was.
Okay, but we're not certain.
Capital design request for this project?
No, it might have been, what it was is, AJ, they spent capital money to get an idea of what to do, I believe is what Linda was saying.
Yes, options.
But how did we get to the point where we're at now?
As far as putting it to bid,
Yeah.
we
So
had
if
them come out and
we
do
didn't
sites.
approve this, if we didn't approve this money right now tonight here, this guy has basically just done pro bono work for us. Because he's did all this work and has not gotten paid for it, and has no authorized money to pay for it. So is that the situation we're in then? Either situation I've described, I don't feel is acceptable. And that's certainly, I'm astonished that this guy would even move forward without a contract in hand. But I don't know the relationship of it.
Like I said, I can get you that by tomorrow night, AJ. We can put this on hold.
And then I just have one other concern that I would like to bring up, is it relates to the way these requests are structured. I just don't understand why we are double dipping on contingency as well. Every capital request we ever have basically comes in with this automatic 10% contingency. And when you look at these projects, there's already contingency built into the bid items. There's two force account bid items, or there's force account bid items on each of the schedules. That is contingency for unexpected things that could arise as you start digging or ripping things apart. And so to me, it seems like this additional 10% contingency that we add on to projects is more or less just a way to circumvent change orders that are required for, you know, more substantial changes to the project. And it, in my opinion, it is reducing the board's oversight of the finances, and it's something that I think the board should consider not doing in the future for projects of this nature that already have force account contingencies built into them. Now, if there's other smaller projects with smaller contractors that don't have that stuff, there could be perfectly acceptable reasons to include a contingency amount the way that we do, but to me it just doesn't seem appropriate the way that we're doing it in regards to these types of projects.
Cool. Thanks, AJ, for bringing that up.
A contingency is, of course, and you understand, for, you know, unexpected discoveries. If you have a contractor working on the job and he all of a sudden runs into some kind of an unexpected incident, then in order to go forward and spend extra money in order to correct it, he has to wait for the board to vote for the extra money. And the contingency allows him to continue. And if he doesn't, if everything goes great, that money just comes back. We don't spend it. And so contingencies are something that I think is allows us to continue working on a job until it's finished without having to come back to the board if they find something that is going to be more expensive.
And yeah, I agree with that, but there's two layers of contingency built into this contract. Under Schedule A, there's minor changes. It's an estimate. It's called a force account bid item. There's $3,000 that we put into their bids for them, that we control how that money gets spent, and it gets spent by time and materials. And so there's already, in the Windward Drive one in particular, there's already $8 grand in contingency built into the contract. And now there's an additional 14 being requested. So basically they're just requesting a change order up front to not have to go through the proper protocols of tracking a project. And this is the same thing that happened with those 2018 capital projects. There's no change orders on how we got from what we originally were supposed to spend to how we got to where we actually spent. And the board just basically approved one change order that authorized all the money just to get spent, basically. And it doesn't make any sense to me. You know, change orders are something that the county council only meets once a month or once every 2 weeks, and it doesn't seem to be a problem for them. It's stuff that typically is coming. It's not like usually change orders are not something that's just like so unexpected that it's all of a sudden you need 20 additional grand. And if we need that additional money, it should be the board. It should come to the board, and we could easily convene for 10 minutes one night to approve a change order or something like that needs to happen. As long as we're given the documentation in advance, and and that's the only thing we're doing, we can easily make those things work, especially considering everything is virtual these days.
May I chime in here just for a minute? I know during the conversations, I think I've seen a couple of hands. I think I saw Steffi and Paula's hand go up. Just want to ask if other board members want to have an opportunity to chime in before we respond second or third term, if we've already spoken.
Oh, I think my points were covered, the contingency point, if we already have that wrapped in there. That was my only point. I was just gonna bring that up, but that was covered.
I'm sorry, I didn't see any other hands, so, obviously feel free to speak up too if I miss it.
I didn't have my hand up, but if I have the floor, I'd say for the purpose of this discussion, that it might be best if we get the information from Joe to make a decision, and that this is part of a bigger discussion that has to we can't make a decision on it tonight, right? But I mean, it might be good for people to digest it and come back and have a discussion about the contingency conversation.
So do we need to make any sort of amended motion that we're deferring this or anything like that, or do we just let it rest for now? What's the proper way?
I think
I'll
we can
make
vote on it, can't
Wait,
we?
can I ask one other question before we pause the whole discussion? Can I ask one other question of Joe about the request, about the project, actually?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, Joe, I was just wondering, so, and this project is down by the marina, and it's, it's expensive, and we can see the line items. I know the community has had some buzz, about the expense, and, I can see the line item. I would encourage them to go to the agenda and then, look at this capital request. But I was just wondering, for these construction companies, do we get anything like a performance bond? I mean, I know Strider is a pretty well-known construction company, but do we do anything like that?
I've brought that up a couple times, and I am working on getting performance bonds part of the original bid package.
Okay, I think
Because
maybe not everything, but it just narrows out people that can't get the insurance or that don't have the experience rating, really, especially for a marina project.
Everybody, well, this is the wall, but any project, no matter if it's, say, a $10,000 project, they should have a performance bond. Generally, it's 10-15% of the face of the contract.
That's true. So it would rule out people that were maybe ill-equipped.
It would weed out a lot of contractors who just can't afford it or don't want to go down that path to do work. I'm very accustomed to having performance bonds with a lot of projects. So.
Okay.
I have a question related to the project as well. So I requested some additional information. Is the for starters, it might be a good idea to do like a project link on the website, and maybe we include the design plans. You could include the bid tab, so it's easy for the community to see, how those contractors bid on our projects and stuff. And that would help just kind of increase awareness on it. I had asked for the specifications that we bid, and I'm curious, there's a document that you provided that just is called scope of work. Is that all we provide to the contractors?
No,
as a part of how the work is and materials are controlled and handled?
Now, what Tyler did with this is he gave them all the values as well. So let's say you were a contractor and you got this bid, and all the linear square footage and the tons and all that number was given to you.
Yeah, I get that.
And then you just had to plug your number in.
Yeah, but I'm curious as to what sort of specifications we're using. Like, like when we bid a project, we have all these requirements that go along with that project on how the materials will be handled, controlled, approved, installed, all that type of thing. I'm wondering, what are we using in that capacity, you know, to get the projects that we want done at the quality that we want?
Hold on one second.
And so like, this is kind of that, but it's not really, I mean, from what I'm reading, it doesn't even, it says things will be done to WashDOT standards, but it doesn't even call out like the WashDOT standard specifications is like driving. So like, are there no material acceptance and approval requirements that go along with our contract? I'd also like a copy of the contract that we execute with our contractors. I'm assuming we include that in our bid proposal. Otherwise, I'm not sure how the contractor.
What I've got is the specifications would say, per the scope of work, as these then reference Washington DOT and MUTCD standards.
Okay. I guess I'm a little concerned about how we're handling like these projects a little bit, just because with like the micro seal last time, we had troubles with site control with the contractor and people coming out onto it too early. We had troubles with the contractor's mix, where in some people's driveways and like along shoulders, it bled and things like that. We had troubles with the micro seal actually adhering in places, likely because the road was not cleaned properly by the contractor before application, and or it got driven on too soon. And so I'm curious as if we could protect ourselves a little bit better if we were using better specifications. You know, if this is all that we're giving to the contractor of what they have to adhere to, there's not a whole lot of teeth there for us to hold them to anything. Basically, they can just come in, do the job that they want, and walk away. Maybe there's more in the contract that we inevitably end up actually executing with them, but I'm not seeing a lot of teeth to hold them to certain quality standards and workmanship standards. Go ahead, Paula.
Thanks. This is an awesome discussion, and I think it's really valuable. I might want to suggest that we're away from the motion right now. Can we take a vote on the motion that's on the table and maybe I think that Andrew and Joe might do really, really well to have a discussion on this. Again, I'm not trying to shut down the conversation. I think it's really valuable, but we have a motion on the table and the discussion isn't directly involved with the motion. I just want to get the motion off the table or get it voted on.
Leslie.
There seem to be some unanswered questions, some information that is being requested. And for that reason, I'm going to move that we postpone further discussion on this motion until, let's say, a week from tonight. We will have a short meeting to go back to the discussion. And during that time, I would hope that the staff would provide the information that has been requested.
So is there a second?
I'll second.
So there's a motion on the table, if I got this right, Leslie, move to postpone the discussion of the capital roads allocation not to exceed 157,156.2.
Yes.
To next week.
To
It needs
A week,
a
yeah,
date.
until next Thursday, right?
to next week, Thursday.
Joe, does
Discussion.
postponing it a whole week affect the project at all?
No, we need probably 3-4 weeks to get it done. And we still have basically 2 months of dirt 2 months in the dirt window.
Okay. 'Cause
Does,
we could theoretically do a quick meeting earlier if that's needed.
I got a question,
Go ahead.
and I'm directing this to AJ. Questions on the culverts. Do you have anything that's there? Do we want to postpone that to next week as well?
Is the culvert?
Joe, I'm assuming
Sorry.
you don't mean just the drainage of this one, or the separate culverts, the 3 culverts?
The 3 culverts, C200 and then 212, 213. Windward Drive, we're putting on till next week. Do you
So the-
want to do?
I guess I am not seeing any engineering money requested under the culverts one, so I wouldn't have that same question. So I think we could, well, other than my concern about the double dipping on contingency, I think we can move forward on that discussion.
Okay.
We call the question.
Yep, we'll call a question. All those in favor of the amended? So the motion is to postpone the discussion of capital roads allocation not to exceed 157,150.62 until next week, Thursday. All those in favor signify by saying aye or raise your
Aye.
hand. All those opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Thank you. We'll move into the next topic, which is our culvert replacements.
Do we need to do anything with the original motion?
I think that kills it.
I think it
That
kills
has
it.
been
Okay.
postponed
Yep.
until next week. We will take it up again next week.
Oh, that's right. We postponed. We didn't. Okay, thanks. Good
So-
use of a new thing we learned from our parliamentarian.
also, you guys know that like there's no parliamentarian that's gonna come and slap us with a ruler as long as we all agree.
So,
Yes, you will. Steffi, yes, you will. It's just like Catholic school with the nuns.
so I'm understanding that we're gonna do the same with this second portion that was the Windward Drive drainage, so we're
Yes,
skipping.
all
that.
Windward will be moved to next week.
Okay, hey, before we go into the culverts, I wanted to give a little, this was talked about at the finance committee meeting. And just to kind of give you guys a general overview, this is, so if you go, actually it's page 46 in our packet, which is the capital reserve funds. And you look under roads, the net usable cash at the end of the year is projected to be $1.5 million approximately. And that includes all obligated funds plus any expected contributions, dues or whatever coming in. So I calculated if we were to approve all of these projects that are here tonight, it would reduce that by approximately $337,000. So we'd still be left with about close to 1.2. Anyway, just kind of wanted to put that in perspective. That was brought up in the finance committee meeting and I thought it was helpful. Okay, so let's move to the culverts then. Is it best if I just go ahead and start with the motion and then Joe, you can explain it?
Yeah.
Okay, so let me get to the right page. Sorry. Oh, skipped it. Sorry, guys. Okay. So I move to approve the capital roads reserve allocation not to exceed $111,315 for projects to replace culverts C212, C213, and C213.2. Can I lump in the other one with it and we can talk about them all together? As well as move to approve capital roads allocation not to exceed $19,642.70 to replace culvert C20.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion.
Joe, were you? I thought Joe was starting off.
Okay. What these are ongoing stormwater culverts that have been addressed in our stormwater plan. Again, I want to say that was probably 2014 or 15 when it was adopted, and this is just going along, finishing up these culverts. I know 212, 213, and 213-2 is up in Sudden Valley, and I believe 200 is right in that Sudden Valley Drive, and it's go in gate 3, go left and go out around that way. It's out near, I think, Little Strawberry where it comes down. And 200, they're all right pretty much in the same area.
Joe, are these all like for like size wise?
No,
Sizing?
they were all 12s. These are going to 18s.
Okay.
And they were all CMPs. And they're replacing them with black plastic.
Sounds good.
The extra one on 213 is when they did the original design, AJ, where they dumped the water. I have to put another culvert in because it's in someone's yard. So that was the original design we got years ago with the first set of storm prints. Any other questions?
I guess I'm going to make a motion to amend the motion that such that the 10% contingency on both dollar totals be removed from the capital request due to the fact that there's already force account contingency built into the bid proposal. So the capital request for the culvert C200 request would be for $17,857, and the capital request for C212, C213, C213.2 would be $101,196.30.
I second.
Any?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Joe, is this going to make any difference to the contractor?
No, the contingency is just something that we would have in there in case there was an issue. The 10% is something that we just add in for our, that's a decision that we make ourselves.
Okay.
That is not part of the bid. That is something we would deem ourselves.
Yeah, and I guess I just point out that the contractor's already determined a contingency amount in his force account, so it doesn't seem like we should feel the need to add additional contingency.
Can I
Karen?
go?
Well, I actually saw Paula's hand raised before. I don't know if Steffi was before Paula.
No, I
Sorry.
just did.
Okay. Paula and then Steffi, I'll go afterwards.
I just wanted to ask Joe, if there's anything that you've seen in this that you have particular concern about that could be running over, or is that a big concern to you to take that 10% out?
I haven't seen anything that would be any major issues. Again, I don't have X-ray vision to see what's underground, but apparent from what Paula, from what I can see, I don't think there will be an issue. And if they drop the shovel and they find a boulder, that would be something that we just come back for and
right.
Because I will get a change order for that and see what it would cost. But where they are, I don't think there'll be.
There's not a big concern about surprises.
No, not that I can tell. And I could be wrong. I'm taking a guess, but I could be wrong. But
right.
I don't think so.
Okay, well, bring your crystal ball next time so you can answer that.
Karen?
Steffi can go. She had her hand up, I think, before me.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, I didn't, Karen. If you want to go, you can go.
Oh, okay. I'm just trying to make sure I understand the ramifications of taking out the contingency. What it sounds like is this is just ours for our protection so that you don't have to come to the board necessarily. This would just require you to come to the board and us to potentially have to come together, possibly on a very quick basis in order to keep work moving. Is that our risk here in not approving the contingency, or is there something I'm missing?
No,
there?
you know, I mean, there are, if you do look, they do have line items, minor changes. I mean, if there is a big unforeseen that again, if, you know, we drop the front end loader down in there and they hit a boulder, their minor changes are going to get chewed up pretty quick. And then we're going to have to come back for a change order that, you know, we got some issues. But again, that would be something that would be the only thing where that contingency would get used up. And at that point, I would say probably that contingency, I'd have to come back to you anyways. Because if there's something really, really, really major that's in there, then it's going, that contingency is basically null and void because we're going to spend more than that. So no, it's not detriment. It's not going to be the end of the earth. I just, you know, AJ's done stuff, I've done stuff. It's got to be major change. I mean, something major that would chew up their minor changes.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just say it's the pretty standard industry practice when you're bidding out jobs in this way and doing construction in this type of process, that's how, you know, we do the same thing. We have force account bid items for repair and replace public or private facilities for, you know, you're digging and you uncover a foundation somewhere that you didn't know or whatever, you know. Like, my point is the engineer is who we're trusting to do this work for us and plan this stuff. And he's basically said that he believes 1,000 and then whatever I'd have to look at it, you know, whatever he believes that those amounts are satisfactory to cover any unexpected expenses, and anything above that would be something major and should be addressed through a change order, not through just some blanket contingency that we add on. It's almost like we're not trusting what the engineer's telling us in regards to that, like, and we just want to have a little bit more because of it. And I think I saw Josh, your hand was up.
Can I?
Oh,
Oh.
Steffi,
Go ahead,
sorry.
Steffi.
Oh, I was just going to say that, especially in the current times, you know, people are already looking at this project and going, oh man, that's a lot of money. So, I mean, if we're going to spend $18,000 more, I just think it's definitely appropriate as well as warranted to come back to the table as a board and meet and show the membership that we're looking at all of the information and, you know, not just giving that away freely. And so I think we owe that to our community.
I just had a quick question to Joe. You keep mentioning this a boulder scenario. Do they not do any kind of like geo scanning of these areas before they dig, or is it just like, hey, surprise, here's Jimmy Hoffa?
AJ shaking his head. I did a project back east and they did a geo thing and I hit buried concrete. Ton, you know, two triax loads of buried concrete that had to get removed before the project could go any further. So, you know, you might get in there and you might find something that it could be soil. It could be a soil issue as well. We don't know. I would highly doubt that it would be a soil issue here, but you know, you could get into clays or something, which would be harder to work with and stuff like that. But the only thing I would say would be a boulder here.
Thank you.
Yeah, Josh. I mean, typically they'll, like, you do geotech borings when you're doing more structural applications. You know, if you need certain soil bearing pressures to hold and support a foundation for something, or, like a big, huge culvert, like for fish passage or something, if it's like 10, 12, 13 feet wide or something huge like that, or a box culvert or something big, you would do some borings to figure out your soil bearing pressures to make sure they can support the weight. But things as small as like just replacing minor cross culverts and driveway culverts, you typically wouldn't see anything like that.
Call the question.
There's a motion on the table to approve the capital roads allocation for C212.
The motion on the table, on the floor, is to approve the removal of the 10% contingency. It's the amended motion.
Yeah. Which for C213, C213.2, in the amount of $101,196.30, in addition to the capital roads allocation for C20 in the amount of $17,857. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Thank you.
Okay, the last one that I have, this is for,
We need to also vote on the main motion now to approve the funding for the culverts. We approved the the amendment to the motion. Now we need to approve the main motion itself.
Wouldn't the amendment to the motion cancel out the main motion?
No, you have to vote to cancel the motion. An amendment simply changes it so that when we vote on the main motion, we vote on the amended motion.
Okay.
I'll call the question, please.
Can our secretary please repeat the motion that we're all voting for right now?
The amended or the original motion?
The original motion with the amendments attached to it.
No, because yes, you're correct. But one question on that, it's basically the amendment that Andrew just read.
Right.
Correct. So okay.
So that changes the numbers, yeah.
Correct. The amendment is to request capital funding to replace culverts C212, C213, and C213.2 in the amount of $100,196.30, including tax, and to request capital funding to replace culvert C200 in the amount of $17,857, including tax.
Are those the numbers that have been changed based on AJ's amendment?
Those do not include contingency. Those are the numbers before contingency.
That's correct. Now, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't the first motion though for the not to exceed amount of $111,315.93, and the second for $19,604? We just voted on the amendment. So
Yeah,
I just read.
right. We changed the original numbers. Yeah.
So the motion, the original motion that we should be voting on for right now should be that $111,315 and $19,642.
We voted to change it. We voted to reduce that amount by the amount of the contingency.
I think Leslie's, are you trying to say in the last motion, we voted to amend just the wording, and now we're actually physically voting on what that amended wording is in relation to spending the money?
Right.
Right.
We're
We
voting
need to decide on spending, right?
We're voting to approve the funding now.
Right.
So the amendment
The
approval
reduced
was
amount.
just a wordage change approval, and now we're voting on the actual money with
Yes.
the amended language because the amendment was approved.
Yes.
Correct.
Does that make sense, Andrew?
Yeah, no, it's fine. I just, when I read out the amended motion, I included the minus the 10%. So I don't.
Yeah, and
anyway,
it should
that's all I'm
be,
saying.
it should include less the 10% contingency. That's correct.
So we voted to amend how you put it in a correct way. We voted to amend to that amount. This is just officially amending the original one so we can.
This is officially voting to fund the motion.
Yeah,
We-
I mean,
we
I'll
have
say
a-
I have no idea what Robert's rule says on this, so I'm just.
Well, as long as we're all, yeah, I think to
We're all in
someone's point
agreement.
earlier,
We're
we're all in
voting on a
agreement.
motion with less the 10% contingency fund.
Right.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Thank you.
Josh, you put your hand up late. I'm assuming you didn't oppose, you were for.
Yes,
Okay.
correct. Sorry,
Thank you.
there's a delay in the satellite.
It's a long way to go with information. It's understandable.
Okay, the next thing is for on-call engineering. This is something that has been put in the budget last few years when something might arise. And what I'll use Southern Court. Something happens up there, rock slide. This gives me the opportunity to get an engineer in here to get me a engineer study of what's going on and what needs to be done, or a culvert or anything road-wise, some things of that nature, just to get somebody in here to look at it and to give us a direction to go in. So, and then if we don't have any issues, we don't spend it.
Can I go ahead and make a motion and then we can discuss? So I move to approve a capital roads fund allocation not to exceed $20,000 to fund 2020 on-call engineering.
Second.
Discussion.
Can I make a quick comment from the finance committee meeting? We reduced this from, the original request was $32,000. It was reduced just based on how quickly or how slowly actually we spent the last allocation. I think we approved it early 2019 and it just barely ran out. So this was already reduced a bit, just kind of based on how we spend it, the rate at which we spend.
Are you saying that we spent 2019 on-call engineering money this year's? Or what do you mean by it just ran out?
Well, meaning it was approved in, back in 2019 for that amount of approximately 23,000. And so literally not too long ago, we've just now exhausted that amount. So that's why this is now coming to the board right now. So the amount that was approved in 2019, that 23,000 has taken us, pretty much halfway into 2020 to spend that amount. So that's why they reduced it down to 20,000 for the ask.
And then I guess I'm kind of confused as to why we don't just close that out every year and then put those monies back in and then reopen our on-call. Seems like it'd give us a better tracking of what we're actually spending. Now we have to dig into actual like line items being billed in like the GL and actual invoices, as opposed to just having a spreadsheet that shows us, like, if it's just tied to 2019 on-call contract, then it should just be spent in 2019, and then we should open a new one at the beginning of 2020 for that purpose, and then continue that process yearly, I guess would make more sense to me.
Well, I don't know that all our projects go on an annual basis, so, I mean.
But this is on call, like Joe said, this is like the rock slide happens, we need to do it, and whatever work it'll get done in 2019, and then, theoretically at the first board meeting of January, we should, have a capital request for 2020 on-call engineering. It's kind of my thought process. It doesn't really necessarily, I guess, affect the vote here, but moving forward, the process would be easier to follow if it wasn't tracking across multiple years. I don't know whose hand was up.
I'll
Leslie
defer to
first.
ladies.
It's
Go
Leslie.
ahead, Joe. If you have a response, direct response, say anything on that. I'd
yeah,
say
the-
go ahead, and then Linda and Leslie. I'm not sure who was next.
With what AJ's saying, yeah, the only problem is I don't have a finance committee meeting, so we'd have to change. It would have to not maybe come from finance, it would just have to come directly to the board and then get followed up by finance later, if we're gonna do it in the first board meeting in January.
Yeah, I mean, we could do it too.
Yeah.
Like, we could do it like it could be approved in like November or whatever.
It'd have to
know,
be, it'd have to be approved.
Like the finance committee
October.
before the election could
Yeah.
review it, and the board after the election, and it could just be approved that we're allocating that money for 2020 in advance so that it's available as soon as.
Right.
It's
Yes,
there.
yeah, we'd have to approve it in January or October so that it would be ready to go January 1.
Okay. Linda and Leslie, you guys can rock, paper. rock, paper.
Leslie, you go first. Your hand was up.
Okay.
I would like to amend the motion to state that we will approve this money for an on-call engineer to be used during 2020.
Second.
Call to question?
Well, those are, yeah,
On the
Sorry.
amended motion?
on the amendment.
So this is amendment that we approve the on-call
Amendment is to
engineer
limit
to be
the
used during 2020.
December 31st, 2020.
Sorry, was the motion to be used during 2020 or is it to December 31st?
December 31st of 2020.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries.
I just want to make a comment, and again, I approve of what you're doing. We're all sitting here and we all agree this is a really good idea. Come November, we might not all be here. And if somebody fails to do it, we can find ourselves in 2021, gate 28. I'll use that as an example, has had issues big time. And are we going to, are we cutting off our nose to spite our face by saying, I want to see this money spended, to then need somebody because we've had something catastrophic happen there and we don't have any emergency engineering monies in place to spend. That's the only thing that I'm concerned about. I love some of these measures, but I realize that as we all sit here right now, we all agree and it's a good idea. But in the long run, I'm not sure that it is because we all won't be here in October and November. And then what happens to that fund if it gets used up? Nobody makes the continuing request at the end of the year when it's busy and we're switching boards and everything else. And all of a sudden something horrible happens. I'll use gate 28 because man, it's active over there.
Yes, it is.
That's all I've got to say. It's just something to think about.
Yeah, Joe.
Well, Linda, then what I can do in October, the last October board meeting, which will be the 22nd, I do believe, if I'm correct.
You're right.
We can bring it, bring the same thing to the board to vote on for 2021 right then.
Okay,
And then-
you know, if you're going to remember that, it's just, that's the danger I see that's concerning to me.
I'll remember it. Yeah, because
Okay.
you're exactly right. You know, if something happens at gate 28 or, you know, any of the other area, I mean, there are some other possible slide areas as well. I mean, we need to have that there so we can go get something.
Yeah, that's all.
Yeah, I'll just throw out that, I don't know, I guess I'm fully confident that Joe can mark a date in this calendar to make sure that we have a pre-planning process to move that type of thing forward. You know, it could also get, you know, we could also alter the, this is a rabbit hole. I don't know. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole at this point.
Don't,
But you could also alter the process of how the construction funds get actually approved and authorized on a more global level through like an annual construction program.
That's a discussion that you and I have, AJ.
Yeah, I don't think we want to go there that right now.
We still have the original motion.
I think Leslie had her hand up.
And if we have a very, 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 very bad fall and we use up all of this money, I'm sure Joe will come back to us and ask for some more.
And we always have emergency, the power
Yes.
to call an emergency board meeting and UDR, emergency reserve.
We have emergency funds in case something catastrophic does happen, yes.
Okay. Call the question?
So the motion on the table is to approve the capital roads allocation not to exceed 20,000 to fund on-call engineering. Did I get that right?
In year 2020.
By December 31st, 2020 is what I wrote down.
Yes.
By December 31st, 2020.
All right.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Or raising your hand. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Okay.
Joel?
Okay,
Financial statements,
I'll
Joe.
I'll quickly go over the financial statements here. I'll start on page 44 of your packet, which is the balance sheet. The cash balances and all that stuff look fine on the balance sheet. The one notable exception of the balance sheet, which I talked about in the finance committee meeting, is under the operations section. This is where you're seeing that operating loan liability, that PPP loan liability showing up now since we received those funds in May, 357,700. At the bottom of this balance sheet, there is an explanatory footnote explaining what this thing is. That's, you know, it's a forgivable loan. Once it's forgiven, that amount will basically be removed from the balance sheet, and then it'll show up on the income statement as a gain, like an extinguishment of debt sort of gain type item on the income statement. We'll go ahead and turn the page to page 45, which is the income statement. I'll start with so basically I'm looking at the second from the right column so I'll just start with the collection rate. So the collection rate for May, as I've talked about before, was 93.7% for the year. For the month of May, it was 89.9%. Now, last year, just for the month for May, it was 99.1%. Obviously, we're seeing a reduction here related to, most obviously, to the COVID-19 sort of shutdown type situation. Year to date, it was 93.7% year to date during May 2020. And then in May 2019 year to date, it was 96.5%. Now I've already calculated the numbers for June, the collection rates. And the good thing is June month to date, the collection rate actually improved to 94.6%, which then pulled up the year to date for June to 93.9%. So the collection rate is definitely moving in a nice and encouraging direction at this point. Going down, this is third column from the right to the net income loss section. So we're showing at this point still a net loss 45,946. Last year at this time, at the end of May, year to date, it was we had a $234,650 gain. The operation in terms of, we were worse than budget net income year to date by 181,629. Last year, we were better than budget by approximately 110,000. The good thing in terms of like expenditures, we also see we were better than budget by expenditures year to date by $20,097. Last year, we were worse than budget by expenditures by $27,395. So we are seeing a decrease in expenditures also during this time period. Now, just for the month for expenditures for May, we were better than budget by 12,456. Last year at this time, just for the month, we were worse than budget by approximately 38,000. Of course, in the past, I've talked before about the expense to revenue ratio, so I'll just go ahead and be consistent and do it again. And when I say the expense to revenue ratio, I'm just talking about for every dollar of revenues, basically, what do we have in expenses? Now, in this case, it's 103.4%. That means for every, basically for every $1.03 in expenses, we had $1 in revenue. Now, last year at this time it was 85%, which meant for every dollar of revenue, we only had 85 cents in expenditures, which is something that we would expect to see given this is largely attributable, obviously, for April, foregoing the dues. And so that's about $200,000 in operations that is foregone right there alone, just on waiving the dues. And that's what starts to create these numbers at this point that already obviously showed up in April, and it's extending to just carrying over to May. We turn the page to page 46, just showing Karen already talked about, like she touched on this page, just showing the cash balances for the major reserve funds, SURF roads, so on and so forth. In terms of net usable cash, 12/31/2020, we're all slightly up from last month at 4/30/20, and those numbers were up from from the year before at 4/30/19. So these cash balances are all looking fine. If we turn the page to page 47, so now we're basically these pages 47 and 48, but you're looking at basically the income statement again, but you're looking at it broken out by departments. And so I'll focus on obviously the biggest department, the one that gets the most attention, golf. So I'm looking at the far left column, actual revenue. So this is page 47. We're looking at only the month of May. And golf had revenues of 102,656. Last year for May 2019, they had revenues of 81,117. So that's an improvement of 21,539. Their expenses, so their total expenses, which is just the actuals, it's the actual salary benefits number and then the actual other expenses. Those two together will give you the total expenses for golf. So the total expenses for golf just for the month of May, 84,178. Last year at this time, at the end of May, it was 104,400. So golf has also experienced a decrease in their expenditures of 20,222, which is good, which gives them a net income for the month of 18,478. That's the second from the far right column. And last year at the end of May 2019, they had a net loss for that month of 23,283, which is a swing of close to 42,000, which is good. That's positive. Now, if we turn the page to page 48, so now we're looking at the end of month of May, but now we're looking at it not on a month to date, we're looking at it year to date at the end of May 31. So looking at golf again, actual revenue 347,596. Last year it was 381,692. That's a decrease of 34,096 in revenues. Expenditures for golf for year to date through May, 300,847. Last year was 338,157. So that's a decrease in expenditures of 37,310, which is, so since they experienced a decrease in revenues of 34,096, that was offset by a decrease in expenditures of 37,310. So net, second from the right, far right column, net income for golf, 46,749. Last year, it was 43,535. So it's an improvement of 3,214, which is pretty good given the fact that golf was closed for approximately 42 days because of the COVID shutdown, mandated shutdown. In terms of the only real actual variances that you'll see, that far right column is what you're looking at, 87,464. Maintenance department, of course, we talked about that before in prior months, and this is largely related to weather-related type stuff. And but in terms of those would be the financials in a nutshell. If anyone had any questions on these.
I got one, I have one for you, please, Joel. On page 47, which is just the month of May, why is there such a negative, worse than budget in maintenance, salary and benefits? They're $14,000 basically greater than they should be. It's worse than budget. And also the common costs have a 16,000. Did we have to pay out something really big there? There's a worse than budget 16,979 up there.
Yeah, that's for common costs. I know right off the top of my head, that was due to personal property taxes being paid for that month. And that amount, when that gets budgeted, the budget software just inherently just spreads it across.
Yep.
But then of course it takes a hit in that 1 month.
Okay, that's cool. And then just the only reason, just really a strange number that, a lot of, there's 14,000 over in expenses for salaries for maintenance. I don't know if we hired somebody else on, or I'm not sure.
Yeah, for maintenance. One thing during May also is there are 3 payrolls that hit during the month of May. So May is going to look a little bit different. It's going to be a little bit skewed in terms of other months during the year. And also with maintenance, what can cause this is if people working on roads actually work more in maintenance during that time period. So this is just basically just a distribution of their labor, probably a combination of those 3 payrolls.
Okay, I just wondered because they were such large amounts. That's all. Thank you.
Yeah, and that's another thing with those payrolls too, because like how it got into the budget software last year, the payroll amount goes in and the budget software just automatically spread it out over 12 months. Actually, when I put the budget stuff in the software for 2021, I did it specifically month by month, how much the department's expected to take in or to put out. So hopefully those will be, budget actuals will be more accurately reflected when the 2021 budget's hit.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I have a question. When was we received the PPP loan in May?
Yeah, it was approximately around May 15th, right in that date, 17th, right in that frame.
So I guess I'm curious as to why we don't show, why doesn't that money get shown in our income statement?
Oh, because, go ahead, Andrew.
No, that was the end of my question.
Oh, yeah, we can't put that in the income statement until the SBA formally forgives us of those loans. So in the interim, we have to show it on the balance sheet as a liability. And it's also not in the current liability section. I have it called out separately and literally kind of listing it as a non-current long-term liability. But when that does become forgiven, then this literally gets removed and then will show up on the income statement as kind of like debt extinguishment is how it shows up on there, like the equivalent of that.
Okay, but isn't it money sitting in our accounts?
Yeah, it is. So it's
we need to show it as operating.
Yeah. So like that's why like on this balance sheet, it's in the, so this is the top part is the operations part. So the liability of the 357,700,000 is right under PPP loan liability. Now the other side to that is actually up here in operating cash. It's a part of that 738,837.
Okay.
But
So
we can't recognize it as,
357 is also included in the 738, so those cancel.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the liabilities basically kind of in a sense offset the liabilities and owner equity accounts will offset the asset accounts. It's like kind of like a balancing scale.
that's literally why it's called a balance sheet, right? Because it balances.
Yeah. Yeah,
They're
you can
gonna
literally
drop-
think about it. You can think about a scale, and on one side of the scale would be all your assets. The other side would be your liabilities, owner equities, and those will have to balance out.
Any more questions on this? Joel, do you have more to add to your
No, I
presentation?
don't. I'm finished.
Is there a motion to adopt the financials?
Don't have to.
Oh, that's right. Thanks, Linda. Okay, well, I guess I'm the one delaying everything. Let's move into our committee reports. ACC.
Sorry, as submitted. Just on a note, I think Linda's made reference to it. As of the AGM, we will be 7 people short on ACC. There's only 2 of us that roll over. So I'll be sending out an email to the ACC people that are on the committee right now. But that means at least 7 people need to run for the ACC in order to have a complement for a 9-person committee. So
Thanks, Rich. I suppose as we move closer, if those numbers don't improve or more people don't come forward, we'll have to get a game plan together for what we ought to do if we don't have enough folks on that committee.
the committee did function once when I first started with only 3 people on the committee. So, I mean, you can function, but you don't meet the requirements.
Josh?
Are there any limitations on notifications we can send out for these requesting committee members?
I don't understand what you're talking about, limitations.
Like, I mean, it seems like we just need to have staff send out some more notifications in the e-blast and post it on the website to see if we could get you some more members to your committee.
Well, we're posted right now on an e-blast, and Linda's posted it because we need 2 applicants to fill 1 slot, and we don't
Right.
have that yet. So,
I mean, it's going out every week.
well, I don't
It
know.
has
that-
been in the e-blast. I know that.
Okay, just checking.
It's on the website as well, but it's been in the e-blast every single week.
Okay. I'll get with Lauren and see if we could put some more attention towards that or something.
I've got an ad that goes in the August views too, that is a reminder of the number of people that we need for the different committees and stuff. You know, it's just something Entity does. I can't solicit. I really shouldn't, but it's just a reminder of, hey, guys, you know, we still have all these openings, you know, and just us talking about it here is probably a good thing.
Anything else you'd like to add to this front, Rich?
No, that's all I got. Thank you.
Oh, communications?
I have nothing to add at this time as submitted.
Okay, document review. So we need to have another board member join us on the document review committee because Mike is no longer part of the board. He served as the second board member on that committee. Are there any board members here who are interested in joining me on the document review committee?
I'll volunteer.
Okay, thanks, Leslie. Is anyone opposed to that, I guess? I don't know. Anyone else interested, or are we good to move on? I'm hearing, or I'm seeing
one.
heads nod. All right, thanks, Leslie. I'll be in touch with you and we can get a game plan for what we need to do. So thank you.
Maybe suggest I'm also gonna be requesting a call for members to join my committee, maybe include that in the e-blast as well. I think there's supposed to be community members as a part of that committee as well. Might as well get the ball rolling on that now.
Is it 2, AJ?
I got it right here. 2 board members and at least 1 additional association member.
I didn't hear anything you said. You need 2 members. You need 2 more members, right, AJ?
2 board members and 1 community member minimum is what it says.
Right. But you have an opening, I think, for 2, right? Community members?
For long range planning, yes, I'll have 2.
Okay.
Emergency preparedness,
No report at this time.
finance.
As submitted.
Anything else to add to long range planning? No, just the announcement that we're looking for 2 members, and yeah, if you staff could, do those Steve blasts go out what day? Tuesday?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
AJ, weren't there some documents that you had for the last meeting that you were going to send out to the whole board?
Yeah, I haven't had time to get that together with the prepping for the board meeting and stuff. I'll get it to you guys here this weekend.
Thank you.
Okay, N&E.
Nothing right now, but in a few minutes I will.
Right. Thanks, Linda. Okay, Parks, Trails, Rec.
Since Rob's not here, I'll cover it. I actually don't know if the minutes have been posted from, I guess not, because they haven't been approved. But most of what was discussed was either in the management report under Parks and Trails or this off-leash area that we're going to get to in a little bit was kind of the crux of it.
Thanks, Karen. We'll move into our continuing business. N&E bylaw amendment.
Okay, everybody, I presented stuff to you at our last meeting. Y'all asked for it to be redlined in bylaws language. I did that, and I'm coming back because according to the budget schedule, we're supposed to be looking at this stuff and saying yay, nay, maybe yes, maybe no. So I'm looking for approval of this. You know that I have 3 that I really, really believe we need to do. Given the memo from the attorney with quorums and stuff, you know, that's part of why the committee has brought some of this stuff forward this year. You know, right now we have to have 50 live bodies in a room. I don't know, do we want to take bets? I'm a betting man that we're not going to be able to have 50 people in a room come November. And that's why some of this stuff, when it came up last year, it was such a good idea. That's one of the ones I really, really want to follow through with. I also would really like to follow through with the, we had the whole thing where currently if somebody has a petition, it has to be a special general meeting. We're spending roughly $40,000 these last few years combined, whether it's an AGM or an SGM. The language that we have sent that would change this would be that someone could still have a petition, but they could they could request that it be placed on the AGM so that it's voted on. It wouldn't have to be a separate meeting with separate costs. You know, that's the second one that I really would, that, you know, we've decided is a biggie. And the last is to do away with floor voting. It used to be a requirement when we did proxies, and there was initial voting done on the floor at that time. There really just isn't anymore. There are a lot of these other changes. I know you guys had some questions with, AJ did, and so did Leslie. But I'd like to get these approved to figure out, you know, am I gonna have, are you gonna allow for 3 measures on the ballot this fall? Or are you gonna say, no, we don't want to do any bylaw amendments? I just need something from you guys. Or are you gonna look at, did you take a look at all these and say, yeah, I can see this. I know AJ had some concerns about some of these other ones we had in here, but they all kind of have to do with voting.
Linda, are you proposing that you want to submit 3 separate ballot bylaw changes? Or are you submitting this entire document? What would
These
you
were-
like to do?
If I had to pick and choose, I would say the 3 that I brought up, the being able to combine petitions for an AGM or an SGM, the quorum requirement, and the floor voting that I would like to do away with. We still have included and allowed for in-person voting. It's just when you would vote that day, we have a ballot box that's down there in the community center, and you would place your ballot in the box after you voted it, and then it would be counted after, at the close of the in-person voting.
Then I suggest we look at those 3 specific items and vote on those, right?
Yes.
Is that, yeah, okay.
That, unless you want to talk about these others, like I say, it's like, once you get started down that path of looking at things that need to be changed, there's a lot that can be. Those are the 3 that I asked the committee to focus on that I thought were really important. To me, if I had only one I had to pick, I would pick the quorum. If I had 2 I could pick, I would probably do the quorum and being able to combine petitions into an AGM. That's a huge expense for us. And I've lived through most of this. There's only 1 year I've missed that we haven't had that expense that we've dealt with since 2016 forward. This is a huge expense to the association. We spend as much on those as we do on our AGMs almost. That's just, and we have currently no other option available to us. And this revised language would give it. And then the third would be to do away with the on-floor voting. There's times that people will bring their own ballots. We collect them, but they're immediately invalidated.
I would just like to,
I can't hear you.
I guess I kind of have a suggestion. There's a lot to unpack here, and so I'm wondering if just some discussion on things we don't like, and maybe some motions to whittle some of this stuff down a bit to something more manageable. A lot of this stuff is redundant from last year's proposes. It's just repackaged in a different way. And so I don't really understand why we would, like, the community handedly rejected those measures. And so it seems like they spoke pretty loudly. I don't know why we would, it's kind of like the jail proposal with the county. They keep throwing it at us after we tell them, no every time. And so I just don't see why we would move forward with some of this stuff. And that's like a large majority of these things. I have no issues with the doing away with floor voting. I think we've typically had like under 10 people who do that in any given election, a lot of times under 5. The quorum thing was already brought up last year and the community didn't want to change it. And so, I don't know why we need to continue down that path. It seems like you know, in this time, we'll have a virtual meeting and we can get 50 bodies in our virtual meeting. If these virtual meetings can constitute a board meeting, I don't see why they couldn't necessarily constitute an AGM. You know, there'd be some logistics to work out in that regard. And then I am in support of a petition being able to make the decision to put it on the AGM instead of hosting an SGM, but I am not in support of the way it is currently written, because it's currently written such that 90 days on each end of the AGM won't allow an SGM to happen. Well, that would have negated the last two SGMs that we just had. And they seemed like they were pretty important to the community as they turned out some record votes. And so, you know, I question whether we should be actively restricting our rights as property owners to what our bylaws allow us to do in that regard. I think just the simple option of being able to include it on the AGM, but if it's something that is that important and dire to the membership, then I think, you know, it should be able to be brought forward regardless of the proximity to the AGM. So I don't know. I think Leslie or Karen was next. I don't know.
I would like to make a motion that we adopt the language on page 60, section 5 about the quorums to accept that a quorum is 10%, let's see, of receipt of valid, properly submitted ballots from 10% of all the eligible votes, and that shall constitute a quorum at any annual or special general meeting of the association.
Second.
This is something that has been a big issue for the last, I don't know, 10 years, trying to run around and find a quorum of people actually physically present. And if enough people, if 10% of the membership is interested enough to cast ballots, I believe that that constitutes a quorum.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to, Leslie, you were coming in and out. I did not get your motion. I wanted to make sure, was that section 5 of page 60 that you were just reading from?
Yes, that be presented to the membership as a bylaw
Okay, thank you.
change.
From Paula, I seconded that, if you didn't hear it.
I did get that, thank you.
Any further discussion?
I guess the community was asked to alter what a quorum was with last year's bylaw amendments. And they rejected that. And I guess I'm not sure why we continue to press forward on that. I've been here and going to the AGMs for the last 3 years, and we've had no issues getting 50 bodies in there. So I can't speak to prior to that, obviously, but the last 3 years we've had 50 people.
I guess I'd like to point out, and I think I did to you when I presented this before, that actually the RCW that the corporation was formed under, 2403, allows for this specifically. They make it a combination of members, and it's, I believe they say proxies, but it's that a combination of the members at the meeting and the ballots that we have received, vetted, and can say, yes, these are legitimate people, that this is what constitutes that. So this isn't, it's like, it isn't something new. It's just putting something in there. What I would like to do, if you have an objection, AJ, is to go, I'd like to see what the measure was last year, because I don't think it was the same thing.
I don't think it was exactly the same, no. You know, my only thing is like, they were asked to change it so that it wasn't 50 actual people, and they said no. And so it's like, are we just wasting time, ink and paper? You know, and they rejected the, correct me if I'm wrong, but these things need 66% to pass, right? And it was, the quorum adjustment was rejected by 66%. And so it's like, I get that the RCW says that and like it matches, but if the community's like already spoken on something, like, you know, we just, you know, is it like worth our time to continue to just press it? Leslie?
Yeah, and I don't know what the measure said last year, and without digging out my booklet and taking a look, I can't tell you.
This has been an issue, and as Linda has stated, for quite some time. And if you look back, I look back 22 years, and people change their minds. It's you know, some things are not exactly the same. There are lots of things that have changed over those years as far as bylaws and things like that. And I do think this is worth another look.
You're comparing 22 years ago to last year's AGM?
No, what I'm saying is that in 22 years, there have been things that have changed. And I'm not saying, you
I
know,
hope
22
so.
years ago or 5 years ago or 10 years ago, but from one time to another, if something is a valuable change, I think that people are willing to take a second look at it.
I just grabbed my 2019 booklet. I'm gonna see if I can find this.
I'm
from-
going to. I'm there with you.
As you're doing that, can I?
Go ahead, Paula.
I was just gonna share, I don't remember if it was 3 or 4 years ago. It was 1 or 2 years after we had moved here that I happened to be meeting with somebody downstairs the day of an AGM and specifically was asked, somebody came down and grabbed me. I was gonna leave. I wasn't gonna stay for the AGM. I was having coffee and they said, hey, can you come upstairs? We need extra people upstairs because we need to get to 50 people. So I do know that it has been an issue even within the years that I've been in here. I understand not necessarily the last couple of years, but I just didn't want people to think it in recent memory that hasn't been an issue because it's been within the last 3 or 4 years that I got pulled up there to sit in a meeting for the same thing.
Okay, so I got the language from last year. Says the quorum is present at a general meeting if at least 50 members are present in person or by ballot at the beginning of that general meeting. So it basically, instead of saying 10% could vote either by, or 10% of ballots or in person could constitute a quorum, it's just saying 50 ballots basically needed to be presented.
Isn't that what the state law says? Or, I mean, what does the state law say again? I'm sorry, Linda.
I'd have to look it up. I had it out. It basically says that it says like a combination of, I believe it's in their case, it says proxies because it was written so long ago. A combination of that or people at the meeting representing 1/10 of the membership. I had a lot of this stuff to you guys before and
Right. Sorry.
As long as, I could see some real objection. And I guess if somebody wanted to press the issue, they could say it's state law, but in the meantime, there's times, being as someone that's been down in the counting room several years, they come down and ask us counters to sign.
Mhm.
And, we're not really attending the AGM. We're down there counting ballots. And so it's just, I really would like to give it a new look. And I think a lot of times, it's say no to everything because there's so much. And maybe that's why I only picked the 3 things that I picked. But I realize that we've struggled with this for so long. If you have a real important petition that you want voted on, you better make darn sure you tell everybody, hey, you need to be where they do the counting and where the board makes the decision. Because if there's not a quorum of 50 people, it doesn't make any difference if you have an overwhelming vote because the business cannot be conducted. until you can have a meeting with a quorum.
It looks like Rich has a comment.
Yeah, Mr. President, this is getting to be a redundant conversation for the last however many minutes. Somebody should call the question.
I feel like we just started it. And they just got the old AGM thing out. So thank you for that, Linda. So if last year we just voted on this and 66% rejected, and we're concerned about having people there, is there, I don't know, I'm just curious, because it seems like there's just kind of like a gridlock. The community's saying, no, 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 we don't like it. And you guys are like, hey, you guys don't realize we need this. Is there any other, some meeting in the middle here? And I also wanted to point out too, that, given COVID, I think that if the government or, the governor writes another stay-at-home proclamation, that completely overrules all of that. I mean, and I know that we're considering COVID in, are we getting a quorum together? But wouldn't the proclamation just overrule that?
I think he actually had to make, possibly, the problem was, I think he had to make an addendum that was actually called an HOA addendum to that stay-at-home order. And that included quorums, I believe, but that expires. And unless he renews that, we'll find ourselves in the same place that we, we're kind of where we're at now.
I do agree with Rich. We might want to go ahead and call the question.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to make sure I have all the information before I move on to vote. I feel like I do now.
Okay, perfect. Well, we'll go ahead and call the question then to approve section 5 quorum bylaw change. Is that an adequate?
Okay.
All those in favor signify by saying aye
Aye.
or raising your hand. Excuse me, your hand. All those opposed?
Nay.
3 opposed. 2, 3.
Did everybody vote? I didn't see handsies.
Do we need to
Is it a
go
tie?
back?
It's a tie.
It
Can
was,
we have hands up again? I didn't see who all voted.
it was a tie. Rob is not here. So we
Okay.
have, without the president voting, we have equal vote.
Then unless, Mr. President, you want to vote, hey, it dies.
Yeah, I'm in favor of the motion. So the motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to make a second motion to accept, again on page 60, section 7B, to require that members vote up until they may vote up until the time of the meeting.
Second.
Discussion.
I'm in support of this one. I think there's been a lot of stuff that's gone back and forth on this in the past, so there's no discussion.
Okay, we'll go ahead and call the question. Oh, go ahead, Andrew.
I was just gonna say 2 to 5, 4 votes a year doesn't really warrant having the process. So, and most of those people are already there ahead of time, prepared, ready, they could have voted, already. They just chose to just do it at the floor, basically. So I would support it as well.
Okay, anyone else? Call the question. Oh, go ahead, Linda. Sorry.
That's all I was gonna say. I don't think there's any more comments.
So the motion is to approve section 7B under voting as presented. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Who?
Okay, motion carries.
I guess the only one, then I'll leave the third, and I guess then I'll ask, since you don't want a lot of this other stuff included in there, there is help, where is it? There's on page 58, AJ, you had complaints about the timing and stuff. Would you like that reworded, and would you consider voting on it? If it were reworded to have the 90 days taken out?
I would support the change if it read that a petition may specify that the matter can be voted on at the next AGM, or if the petition SGM, or that and basically end it there. So there's two statements regarding 90 days after that. So basically it just allows the petitioners to choose whether they want an AGM or an SGM.
So if I would want to revise the language so everybody can look at it. I would ask if we could table this, and if we're going to meet on the 30th of July, if we could do that, or whenever I want to talk to everybody about this budget calendar and where we're going with this, but I'd be happy to bring it back.
Yeah, and I was just going to make one other kind of recommendation that I see, that it's proposed as a change here. It's the definition of owner, and I'm quite concerned that the current definition and the proposed definition, which is basically the same, the definition's not changing really. But the way it's worded, it creates a scenario where there's at a certain time during the real estate contract, there's two owners of said parcel based on the language. And I'm curious as if we should ask our lawyer about that. And maybe we should propose a change to that language that actually makes it so that an owner doesn't, like, until the sale has closed and the legal lot has been transferred, that, because the way it's worded now, a real estate contract is entered once mutual acceptance happens, which is long before the property's actually changed hands. And so I have some questions about just the legality of the existing wording, and so, yeah. I don't know if anyone else would be in support of asking that question to Rich, but.
Yes. I have another comment, Linda, about that. The petition for an SGM to be held, and you're saying within 90 days before an AGM. And I think you've got another big problem there, because if this thing comes in 60 days before, and you've already sent out the ballots for the AGM, it's an issue. I take that into account when you're rewriting.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Some of the other members, and at first it made sense to, and I guess the reason it made sense to me at the time, but I hear what you're saying, Leslie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that this last couple times, especially with the dues limitation, that has caused and continues to cause such an issue.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah, no, it's a
everything
good
got
idea,
nailed.
but it needs to be rewritten. Yeah. And
Okay.
yes, AJ, I do agree that whole issue with ownership and when it becomes whose property, I think that needs to be addressed also.
Yeah, and I would just contend with the 60 days, while there should be some confusion or whatever, as a property owner here, I'm not going to advocate or support anything that actually reduces our rights as property owners. We have enough people infringing on our rights in this country as it is. I don't think we need to willingly do it to ourselves.
I don't want to. The only thing that I do is so many times when people do petition, then the fight starts. Why can't it be on the AGM? Why do we have to spend all this extra money, and how much extra money does it cost? I just want to have people to still be able to petition and choose the option of having it on an AGM ballot. And I'll be happy to rewrite and take some of that out. I'll talk, the committee and I meet on Monday, and I'll see if we can all work on this together.
Sounds
And put
good.
something together that you like better. I'd be more than willing to do that. I don't know what you want to do with some of these other little changes, you know, I just, you know, I hear AJ, a lot of this is what was, you know, put together last time. I understand that if we put too much in front of people, then you know, you lose their willingness to vote for something. You know, it becomes overwhelming.
Yeah.
But, you know, that's up to you if you feel that, you know, that if, you know, if you want to consider some more of these, like I say, a lot of them very much apply to voting. And it clarifies voting. If you'd like to see if the attorney can look at lot ownership and maybe revise that one at least, you know, that gives you four different measures you'd be looking at. Then if you did the petition at the AGM, the quorum, the eliminating floor voting, and there's one more quorum denied. There's one more. There's the floor voting, the
Yeah, ownership.
ownership. Yeah. That would give you the four. Then you'd have 4 ballot measures. I don't know if you think that's too much, you know?
Yeah.
I was just going to suggest that since we're going to talk about this at the next one, maybe you and the committee, when you meet on Monday, can decide exactly what you want and bring forward those motions. And then we can just look at the motions
Okay.
that you guys decide that you want to do, and we'll have those ready to go and move through them.
My
Done
internet's
deal.
frozen.
Done deal, because I've got most of it already here. And like I say, we meet on Monday and all I have to do is add it to our agenda, which I need to get in tomorrow, but that's why I waited for this meeting. So I think we're all done on that. I've asked Andrew to let us talk about, and that's the B part of it, the budget calendar. The train's off the track here, guys. You know, I brought, you know, in theory, on the 16th that we canceled, there's a schedule that says the AGM finance ballot measures and explanation finalized. We haven't done that. Then on the 23rd, which is tonight, we're supposed to go, hey, AGM agenda, measures, ballot, and explanations reviewed. Voting is necessary. Well, we haven't discussed whether we think we're going to move forward with this. You can't adopt it until the 3rd of September, but it would be nice to get the language together to begin putting the booklet together, which we've already done. Plus, Karen, there's all sorts of that other stuff that goes in the budget business with the reserves and stuff, because on 8.3 and 8.4, we've got attorney review of the AGM materials. We don't have any of that ready. And then on 8.5, there's supposed to be a town hall budget meeting discussion, and we haven't made a decision. Karen, you missed the finance committee meeting, but I talked to Joel and talked to him about that one, the do scenario sheet. It needs fixing.
You mean the special assessment, the rec special assessment?
And then where it carries forward for just an increase to dues, where it switches over from one to the other from the SA. It's like 1 month, if it's correct, it's like it's 12.13, and then the next year it's 12.14, but that wouldn't give you the 3% per year. Are you really only going to increase it by a penny?
It's fixed. It's already
Is
fixed.
it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just, it's weird. You look at stuff, you get so used to looking at stuff, you don't see it. Lisa and I go through that all the time when looking at.
Yeah.
I'm
glad you caught that, Linda.
It's really strange. You get so used to looking at it, it just isn't thought. What I'd like to see us do is, what are we going to do to put the train back on the track? Are we going to say, yes, we're going to meet on the 30th, And yes, we're going to deal with some of this stuff. Like we don't have an agenda yet. You know, the agenda, you know, for you to do that, you have to start putting it together and decide, you know, it helps that you guys have looked at some of these considerations for N&E. You know, there's at least 4 of them here, it looks like. So you can add that, but the rest of the agenda, you know, that includes a budget measure. And I got issues about how budget measures written, but that's for another time. But it's for us to look at all this stuff. You know, Karen, that the last meeting, you had this whole list of things we wanted to talk about. You know, the 95%, the 3% for the raises, a lot of that stuff. We're going to have we now have the salaries to look at to say, well, yes, no, maybe can we do something different? You know, and it's discussions we haven't had. And I think we need to do it in order to keep moving forward.
Yeah, and last year I attended at least one of the town halls, and you know, we put some of these questions to not necessarily the questions to the community, but the community got to have some input too before we finalized it. So it's an interesting calendar because we have to finalize some things before we can actually finalize them. And we need input before we can finalize them, but we need to finalize them before we get input. So yeah.
You know, it's just, there's a lot that we have to do. You know, if we want to hit ourselves with the 30th, we're not going to back away from it. We could also put we could do that meeting. I can't say what I want to say. But I'm saying we could fill up our dance card real easy for the 30th.
Paula.
Thank you. How long realistically, Linda, just off the top of your head, is that 2 hours? I would suggest that we just right now decide, I'd rather do this next Thursday and get this taken care of. We've got a couple of things already that we've got on there. If we know that we've got about an hour of other things and a couple hours of this, then maybe we just look at planning for a 3-hour meeting next week and get that on the schedule so that we can move it forward.
You know, yeah, because you've got there's the one capital request we want to look at, you know, that sort of thing. I'll have the bylaw amendments, the N&Es, I'll have that in a much better form. And I'll have it all condensed down. I had to leave it in now because of all the pages it gets spread over.
And then there's just the one budget measure, right? But all the supplemental materials that go with it.
That's the budget measure. And like I say, I have an issue where it's been, and it'll be a discussion that we all have to have. And you and I've had it, and it's just the way I see things and the way they write things. And I don't know why they do it the way they do. But it's just, there were a couple of things too, even on the budget, when we looked over it and went line item by line item. I remember in facilities, there were a couple of line items that were kind of way off. And somebody asked us to take a look at that. And I don't know that anybody's ever gotten back to anybody because the prior years showed that the amounts, that were scheduled for 2021 were a bit high. That's all.
Yeah, based on the 2019 actuals.
Yep.
I move that we approve a special board meeting for a week from tonight, July the 30th, in order to consider many items.
Second.
Call a question.
Is that at the same time
Yeah.
as normal, or is it earlier?
I know I would expect it to be. Well, I'll tell you what, I think the executive committee needs to discuss, as they do with every board meeting, what the topics will be and what times.
Is there just a suggestion to start maybe earlier if anybody can? Or,
I'm fine. Anybody have issue with starting at 6 o'clock?
No, but when did we talk about having the next closed session?
In the
Next
next
board
week.
meeting.
That's the week after?
Or the weekend, whenever, what, the
Yes.
13th or something, I think it was said.
The next regular board meeting
13th.
is the 13th
Okay.
of August. So that's
Is-
gonna
Question,
Mhm.
is any of this, because the first week of August are our budget meetings, and so is any of this able to wait until the 13th? So that we can get, or I mean, I was just asking, of all the things that we're looking at loading on next Thursday, is any of it able to wait until the 13th? Because I feel like we're overloading the schedule, but that's just a question.
I think that we did agree to do the construction next week.
Right, I feel like that was
And
pretty
it
important.
just seemed to be a good idea to add on the bylaw changes also.
So those would be the two agenda items would be construction and bylaw discussions.
Okay,
As of right
I'm just
now.
making
yeah.
sure.
So am I writing the motion for 6 a.m. or 6 p.m. or 7?
I can make 6 if
Okay.
everyone is okay with that.
Is there anyone who can't make 6?
6
Does
a.m.
Rob work?
Yeah, 6 is good.
Okay, I wrote it for 6.
Works for
Final
me
answer.
as of now.
Call the question.
Yeah, all those in favor to have a meeting next week, Thursday
Special
at
meeting.
6, special meeting, thank you. 6 PM, signify by saying aye
Oh.
or raising your hand. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thanks. So Linda, are you all wrapped up with what you wanted to talk about?
Yes, I'm all done. Thank you. With your vote that you just took works perfectly for me. Thank you.
Okay, we will move into our new business, which is a policy marina off leash area. Go ahead, staff, who's leading that, Joe?
That'll be Maddie.
All right, good evening, guys. I'm Maddie, the rec manager, and I'm presenting this on behalf of the Parks Trails Rec Committee to you tonight. So this starts on page 50 in your packet here. And so this is a request to replace an existing policy you guys have. It's 1997.07 is attachment A in the packet, with the draft policy seen in attachment B right after that. So it's regarding the off-leash area at the marina down in the big field there. So this was approved or recommended to be approved by the Parks Trails Rec Committee at their last meeting on June 30th. And the policy would really just update the rules for use of the area and define a new boundary within the field. It's not for any type of physical structure or anything like that, because this is not a capital item request. So it has nothing to do with like a permanent structure. It's just a new policy. So right now, one of the biggest issues we're having is what is written in that 1997 policy is just not really what's happening at the marina right now. The signs are all placed in different locations. That policy is a little vague. It has a hand-drawn diagram, which isn't the greatest. So the Parks Trails Rec Committee has been working on this for the past several years actually, and been meeting with a lot of community members, a lot of people who are off-leash dog kind of representatives, and they created this new policy together. So this has been in the works for a long time. When staff took a look at this, we thought it was a good idea too, because it makes sense. We need to put our signs where the actual boundary is, and where the boundary is right now just isn't really clear. We have a lot of issues with dogs kind of being in areas where they shouldn't be. You know, Andrea told me the other day, I had 2 Great Danes run into my office. I'm like, oh boy. And we have dogs running through the parking lot and down on the launch ramp, and having them in areas where it's like an active boating area, you know, it puts kind of the dogs at risk, our members at risk. And then, you know, vice versa, we have people or not camping, but picnicking on the ground in the off-leash area as well, which just doesn't set it up for a really good situation there. You know, my dog likes to go through my trash at night, and you know, so I definitely understand what's going on there. So really this policy is just to kind of bring it up to speed. Earlier in the year, the board of directors approved new rules for on-leash and off-leash dog etiquette. So that's why you're not seeing it in this policy. You guys already approved it earlier in the year. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys have. This has been looked at and edited by our attorney already. And I think it might need to go to document review committee if you guys approve it tonight. Yeah, Karen?
Do we have any of those? Do we have any signs up? I know we worked on the, you know, etiquette signs. What's proper off leash and on leash rules, if you will. Are any of those signs up yet? Or are you kind of waiting for this to be approved so we know the right place to put them?
We were kind of waiting. Yeah, we're wanting to put them all up in the right locations, you know. So we're kind of waiting for this. Thanks, Stephanie. Good question.
I do. So I love this drawing, by the way. Thank you. It's very detailed. So first of all, I really appreciate all the work you did with all the dog park representatives. I know this was huge, huge in the community, and this looks great. And you're telling us this is acceptable. Everybody's happy. Awesome with the nod. That's all I needed.
Yeah.
Okay. That's all I wanted to just kind of reiterate that. Awesome. She nodded. Okay. I did see, okay, with all this posted, and then we would have like signs like the off-leash entrance over there. Okay, perfect. I love it. I just thank you for that. And it looks really good. It's really clear. I did want to bring, one thing, and I don't even know, this might be a little bit off topic, but you know what? When you go through, I went there, I think last weekend, and it was beautiful. It was gorgeous. There was a volleyball net up. I don't know if maybe somebody rented it, but when I went there, I was like, oh, hey, I wonder if this changed. So I do like all the, you know, posting of the rules and things like that too. So
yeah,
cool.
no, that's our volleyball set up, and there's some horseshoe pits over there too. So the idea is to kind of walk that direction to direct them away from where people are picnicking and playing on the swing set structure, you know, and just to go that way, it might be a bit easier. And if you guys ever decided you wanted to set up a physical boundary, you know, between the kind of playground area and the off-leash area, there's discussions about gates, and it doesn't have to necessarily be a fence, you know, so that's a completely different conversation, but that was kind of the idea.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, Linda?
Maddie, I've got a comment for you, a couple of them. You've got a bullet here, dogs younger than 4 months in heat or that show aggressive behavior may not use the off-leash area. I think if dogs are aggressive, they don't belong anywhere down there. And I think we all know what I'm talking about. And that I hope the spit areas and stuff, that you do some really serious signage that people are just not deciding they can go over there if there's an issue. The other thing is the next one below that, it says owners and handlers may be liable. I think they should be liable.
That was added by our attorney, the second one. So, I mean, we can amend it to say something else.
You know, if you go in a court of law and your dog is off leash and it bites another dog, attacks another dog, digs a deep hole that somebody then falls in, whatever, you're liable for your animal, period.
Yeah,
Actually,
we have Sorry, just to interject there, we do have rules about like dogs and like all areas in Sudden Valley already in our rules
Okay.
and regulations. So, you know, I feel pretty good about what we have because it's already kind of in there too.
Okay.
My poor darling sister who adopts dogs just went through this, and just having it posted is actually what her attorney said was the responsible thing to do. Just having it posted, you know, because she has a fenced area for her dogs, you know. So just warning dogs, you know, or, you know, having those rules for the owners of the dogs posted.
That's exactly what we're gonna do. Yeah.
Right, right.
So I think actually, Linda, you're right that if you read state law, you're liable if your dog shows aggression. But I'm okay with the may wording because it's like Steffi said it. So our attorney recommended several years ago, good signage and a physical boundary. So I support this very much, but I also very much support putting a physical boundary in place because for one, I know we're not there yet, but for one, it helps the people trying to follow the rules rather, you know, they're not just having their dogs run out and they're having to chase them constantly. And two, I think it reduces the number of calls that we as staff have to, or that the staff have to handle. It separates the people that are trying to follow the rules and just accidentally their dog gets out versus those that are actually not. And the third thing I wanted to say was about the spit. I think it was back in 2017, they changed a little bit the off leash areas and the wording said something about or anywhere else that says no dogs allowed. And at the time the spit had a sign that said no dogs allowed, but when they redid it, when they did the construction on it, that got taken out. So I think it's always been a little bit of a, what is it? Is it on leash is okay? Is it no dogs allowed? Do you remember what we decided? I felt like we talked about it, Maddie. Do you remember what? Either way, it needs signs.
I think it decided on leash because it's not in the diagram, you know. The diagram's great, but it clearly doesn't show the spit. So, and I didn't see anything saying prohibited from the spit. It's pretty clear with like AM, PM in the rules, but yeah.
Yeah, it was something that was only noted because of the sign and then the sign got removed and then it was like nowhere. So it was, is that what it was intended to be? Or I'm fine with either as long as the signage is clear. I think we have some situations where people, it's not a lot, but people who have non-social dogs will take them and they want to use an off-leash area. And so if there are other users in the off-leash area, they will take them to other areas of the Marina Park. And those, you know, we've heard some stories of aggressive or just non-social dogs that really shouldn't be off leash at all.
You know, I wanted to say with the spit area that, you know, with the dog area that we have down there now with no barriers and even with barriers, I don't care. We're going to have dogs running around out of the cars. I don't care unless you're going to stop people when they come in the parking lot. I think it would be nice to offer a place, and the spit area is a perfect location for people that just don't want they have their kids or whatever, and they just don't want dogs around. And that's kind of, we don't have a place down there anymore where people can just come and be with their children if that's their choice. You know, yeah, they would have to go over and play on the play equipment and stuff. But I'm saying if they just want to have a picnic and enjoy the beach area, there's nowhere down there. And the spit area would be a perfect place to be able to have people to go if they just really don't want to have to deal with the dogs.
It is dog free on the spit, isn't it?
I don't, it's not in any of our rules or regulations.
Okay.
When I check. So I think that'd be a separate discussion for you guys.
Okay.
Just to think about.
Steffi, that's what I was trying to say. It really used to be because there was a sign, but it wasn't in any of our rules listed. And so when the sign got removed, it kind of became, who knew? You know, was it on leash? Was it off leash? Was that okay? Was it still no dogs? It's just been confusing.
What did the sign say before?
No dogs allowed.
Okay, well.
Don't we not want them in the spit? And by the spit, you mean When you're standing in the dog park and you're looking at the marina, the spit is on the right, or you mean the spit that goes out right here on the left?
The
The one-
small one that goes out on the left, that kind of curves
Okay.
around the marina.
Okay. All right. So no, I thought you meant the little area on the right too. Okay, got it.
You mean the secret beach where everyone
Yeah.
goes? The secret beach is dog friendly.
Now, not secret. No.
So I have a couple things. I guess I'd just like to point out that by adopting this policy, we are saying that we are pursuing the installation of a physical barrier out there. Personally, I don't have a dog, but I don't really support the installation of a physical barrier just due to the fact of I wouldn't like to see that eyesore at our waterfront park. And it really, unless it extends out into the lake, it doesn't actually stop any dogs from getting around it. And then I'm just kind of curious as to what happens. So it says violation of this policy. So if someone's caught without a dog on a leash, like in the parking lot, we're going to issue them a citation banning them from the marina for 30 days. That's how we're going to enforce this policy.
Yeah, just to respond to that, this isn't for any type of physical structure. Like I said, this isn't a capital request. So, if the Parks Trails Rec Committee came up with something and we put it together, it would come through to you guys as like a completely separate request. And then you could discuss it and vote on it, at that time. This is just to set this like in air kind of boundary so we can like put the signs even in the right place because they just don't match what the policy says right now. And then we can just better communicate, with people down there. Hey, it actually starts over here, or go through this way, and that kind of thing. But yeah, our attorney suggested putting this in so that it had some type of teeth.
And that's what we want to do. I mean, also just to reiterate what I said, that the policy specifically says whether we're approving the money or not, at this point, we're telling staff we want a installation of a physical barrier by adopting this policy.
It doesn't say anything about a physical barrier. We could do a ton of different
SPCA
things down
management
there.
will pursue installation of a physical barrier along the boundaries of the off-leash dog area. It's part of the implementation plan.
Well, you can take that out if you'd like.
I don't want to take it out. That was a recommendation by our attorney. We have created it. We have a mixed use park down there. We have multiple uses in one place. We have safety and liability concerns by having multiple uses. And when people come to use something other than the dog park, they are not taking upon themselves the same risk as someone who is going to use the dog park. So and it doesn't have to be a fence. There are a lot of different things that we can pursue and that we talked about, but without being willing to at least explore that option, all we are doing is taking the existing policy and moving it closer to the other things. This was an excellent compromise by everyone. It gave the dog park people the amount of space they need, and we were working towards an ultimate solution of making it safer. And our attorney has reviewed this, and they have given us input. He has given us input on our safety and liability concerns down there based on the current way that it is being used. And we have some risk there.
I have a question.
I understand the logic train completely on all of that. That's just my personal opinion is I don't want to see a physical barrier when I drive down there. That's just my, I understand where you're coming from and it makes sense completely. Steffi, it was next, and then Paula.
Oh, me. Okay. So so could the wording be changed that we're exploring the physical barrier instead of just giving free rein and then not knowing what we're putting down there? And then I have a second part. What are we going to do about people who don't live here? is that a problem? But I mean, we're looking at these like penalties and we have people that don't live here.
Yeah, so that part that says pursue installation, that was really intended to be, we're gonna pursue a request for a capital item, not like we're just gonna put it in or something. So we can
Okay.
change it to explore, it's the same intent there. And
Okay.
yeah, so back when the committee was talking about an actual physical structure, that obviously came up because we have so many people down there who are not actual members. And the idea was, well, you could even put in a card reader. We issue cards to people to use the pool if they pay for like a monthly pool pass or something, who aren't Sudden Valley members. It's the same concept, and then we keep track of who they are, and their ID is logged every single time that they come into the facility. So that's something that we could do if you guys wanted to go down that route.
But right now we just don't, I mean, we would just ask them to leave or something. Or if they were and they were violating. If they were non-residents, they're violating, we would just be like, hey, you have to leave. Or
yeah, that's kind of a security question. I'm not quite sure how they handle trespassing non-members.
Okay.
So was it my turn?
I think Joe.
Oh, sorry, yeah, it was Paula. Sorry,
Paula's, yeah.
I'm getting tired.
Yeah, me too. I was just gonna say on that, you could probably just trespass them. I mean, there's just security could trespass them from the property, and I'm not concerned about that one. It uses the word can. Nobody's gonna sit down there and tell people they can't come down to the marina unless there's a huge ongoing type of problems with it. So I actually like that being in there, but I did want to ask and just confirm, that's the will pursue installation of a physical barrier that we managed to get on that part, not just on the drawing, but on that part of the policy. Everybody came together with the agreement to pursue that as well. Both the dog park team and the Parks and Rec.
Yeah, there was general consensus there that some type of physical structure makes sense. Some dogs can be super friendly. Like my dog's a 70 pound super friendly dog, but he loves to jump at people to kiss their face, which is just completely inappropriate, and shouldn't be around children. So there was consensus on both sides. A boundary does make sense.
Well, I just think that is a fabulous example of the community working together. I'm really glad to see that come together that way. Thanks for letting me know.
I'll just, was it me else or was it Joe? Was it Joe?
No.
I was just going to add in that, yeah, it's pretty easy to trespass people. It doesn't take a lot of work. Norm and I can take care of that pretty quick.
Got that down.
Paula, I was just going to add, the only fence or physical boundary that we discussed was from the corner of the fence line to that bench or close to that bench. We didn't agree on one along the back line. It doesn't mean that it couldn't happen. That would, I guess, be part of the continuing discussion, but the fence line there wasn't, and one of the concerns is that in the winter months when no one else is using that, the dog park owners will stand back there under the shelter and use it. So it could be putting in a gate. That just wasn't resolved. And so it's still an open item. I was just going to add to,
so that's good.
Yeah, I hope we can move the confusing posts where they are now so that we have a clear boundary of where it is, whatever that is now that we decide to do in the interim, that it's clear and that we move that to match this line.
Yeah, Josh?
When you guys say like dog park group and such, how many people are we talking here?
Do you want me to? So it started with 2 meetings of probably 35 to 40 people sharing all their feelings. And then a group of maybe 5 representatives on their own organized and got a lot of information. I don't know how many people they were gathering info from, but when we had a joint meeting, it was 5 people that had gone out and solicited input specifically from frequent users of the dog park. And we've since talked about this several times. It's come up in board meetings. It came up in the Parks and Trails meeting again. And about this plan specifically, I haven't really heard a lot of pushback. And this particular document has been around for 2 years now, Maddie, since pretty much since you first started, I think. So it's been, maybe not circulated widely isn't the right wording, but it's been out there for a long time.
Okay.
And there was a really good group of people. I mean, at the time we had a lot of momentum. They were gonna like organize a volunteer group to like clean up waste. And I don't know if we can get that momentum back. I hope we can, but they were really dedicated to making it a nice place.
Well, what I was gonna ask, and I don't want to like muddy the water here, the dog spit. But you know, would it be worthwhile to send out a survey to see how people feel about you know, the addition of a structure or so, or do you think that's covered under all the feedback that you've already received from people?
I think it's covered under what we received. And I think we also received very clear guidance from our attorney that we need good rules and a physical boundary.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question. How are we intending to deal with the people who picnicked down there? I've been down there and like it's, you know, dog free for all with picnic blankets all over the place. Are we gonna now not allow picnicking in the off leash barriered area? Or the policy, I didn't see anything in there that addressed that, and we just did discuss that earlier too.
Yeah, we're hoping to put some actual picnic table benches, or you know, those rubberized picnic tables down there. So hopefully people will, you know, picnic on that instead of on the ground. There's nothing in there specifically about you can't have a picnic there. Just seems like an unwise choice to have it on the ground, I think specifically. But some people want to have a picnic with their dog. But we can definitely work on adding benches and tables and other things to help support it in a safer way.
I suppose that could be a rule you add at a later time. I have seen off-leash area rules that don't allow food in them.
Careful now, you're infringing on those dog owners' right to picnic.
We didn't add it. I'm not saying that we should. I'm just saying that if it became a problem, it could be
Hey, it's
added.
the dog's
I
right
do
to
know a
pilfer.
lot
I
of
want
people
you to
like
know
that. They
Josh's dog is pacing behind him if you're watching him with this discussion that we're having here.
I don't
I
believe we.
do know I have heard people say that they enjoy the picnic.
I was going to suggest, sorry.
Go ahead, Paula.
I was going to suggest we call the question, but I don't believe we have a motion on the table.
I'll make a motion I move to adopt policy 2020.01, which will supersede SVCA policy 1997.07.
Leslie seconded.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion as stated, signify by saying aye. Or raising your hand. Any opposed?
Nay.
2 opposed?
Nay. Well, yes.
Jot. Who's 3 opposed?
I think so.
And 4 support?
Yeah. Steffi, were you opposed?
Yeah, I'm gonna be opposed just on a couple things of wording. I like it, but there's just a couple things.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Motion does carry. And Steffi, the next agenda item, go ahead and take it away.
Steffi.
Steffi, are you with us? I think you're muted.
My video's frozen if anyone's talking.
You're next up on the agenda to discuss the small roster.
Did it come back? Were you trying to talk to me?
Yeah, you're next up on the agenda to lead us through
Okay,
a
sorry.
discussion of the small works roster.
Yes, I'm sorry. My video was freezing. So hopefully
It happens.
hopefully we're okay now. Yeah, so I just wanted to bring this new business to the board. Part of the problem with our community complaints are that we aren't getting enough bids for our projects. So when we discuss this with Bruce or Jacob, they usually say that they have to go out and get the bids. So, in investigating this and just kind of pulling from resources and talking with other people who handle these things, what they're doing is signing up for a multiple small works roster. And it sounded like Leslie was familiar with this, probably from working, in her volunteer work at the water department. And it sounds like you, Andrew, were familiar with it as well. So I'm just wondering what I can put together for the board in order to consider this. I have some things I'm ready to email out.
Steffi, I think we lost. Well, I've lost you.
I've lost. Yeah.
As well. Good old Sun Valley Wi-Fi issues.
Hey, Andrew, can we get better Wi-Fi out here? Come on.
Well, we can make
Am
that
I the
happen.
only one?
Well, I think Steffi mostly got her point across.
Yeah,
You
I think
know,
it's a good
what-
idea to send her the information out. Yeah.
And I think, to some extent too, I know we've gotten a lot of feedback from local contractors who would, love to be able to bid on some of the smaller jobs that we've done, all like the stairs on the dance barn and things like that. And maybe we could develop some sort of, roster that includes people for those smaller tasks as well as like bigger ones.
It looks like Steffi's joined us again. Steffi, you were
Sorry.
cutting out there. I wasn't sure if you had finished everything you wanted to say.
Oh, yeah. So I'm just prepared to send out some information for people in order to, and just wanted to get that information to our people who actually handle the projects. It's something that we could sign up for. And basically we post it one and it's done. And it goes out across the state. There's no limit on area because apparently that's also illegal to limit to just local area. I read, I don't know in what venue. I'm just spouting that out, whatever. So that's why they do it that way. But it definitely opens our pool. And also it could reduce our costs because it is based on capital expenditures that that we would have, for our projects. And it's pretty nominal. It goes from like 135 to about the 250 range annually to join. And we could also just post our projects, have the plans there. People who are going to bid on it, they're responsible for their printing costs. They go there to just like a one-stop shop in order to submit their bids for us.
I'm glad to see that you're looking at getting into an existing small works pool, because to create our own would just, it's a huge project and it's a constant thing. We'd almost have to hire another person to take care of the small works roster. And if we can get into something for
yes, I agree.
$150, $200, I think that would be great. I would like to see some examples, of that being done. Now, the one that I work with in the water district, they have agreed to put everything, I think they put their limit at $350,000 through the pool. And anything
Yes,
over
this
that,
one,
and that, yeah,
yes,
okay.
this one is 300,000 and it's for small works, 300,000 and under.
Yeah.
And anything larger than that, I believe, gets printed in the Herald. But we should, if we have anything larger than 300,000, we should be looking at the Seattle Business Journal,
Yeah.
that type of thing.
Stephanie, I'd really be interested in seeing the particular one and how they handle things.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll send out. I have, there's one that's Bellingham based and then there's one that's statewide. So I would definitely send both of those out and then just kind of want some feedback from everyone because I really want to get this rolling before next year. That's the cutoff. So
okay,
either a yes or no would be awesome, guys. Thank you so much.
We can talk about that next week, right?
No.
Add it to the agenda. Oh, no, that's all right.
No, we don't need to add that to me. Oh. Okay, so that's all I have. Does anyone else have anything for me on that? Cool.
I think we're the property owner.
Stephanie, anything else? Nope. Okay. We'll go ahead and move into property owner comments.
Okay, and we do have a hand raised already here. It's from Nancy. If you could just give your name and address, I've brought you over.
Nancy Elliott for Sandalwood Circle. This is about your quorum motion or bylaw amendment. The original is based on the number of members. As this is written, it's based on the number of eligible votes. This is a members meeting, not really a meeting to be based on, say, a contractor with 25 lots gets to count for 25 members. Robert's Rules of Order uses members. Each member is equal. And our old bylaws use members. I'm kind of uncomfortable with changing our quorum to be based on votes. I mean, you could have conceivably 5 members produce that 10%. You can reissue or revisit that. All it would take, instead of saying 10% of all eligible votes, is to say 10% of all eligible voters. So I hope you'll consider that. Any comments?
Nancy, I'll be happy to send you the state law where it talks about a combination of actual warm bodies and votes. But I see what you're saying. I think the reason, and with the voters, it's just to make sure the 10% would actually represent, rather than just the 50 we have now, more like the quorum that we need for a petition of 10% of the community, which is far more representative of where we are now than before. It's just, in years past, it's just been a real challenge to get 50 people in a room at
Well, I
times.
agree with you. I'm not disputing that. It's just, I see the potential for a small group to corral a quorum because there are people who own so many lots, 20 plus lots, and all you'd need is maybe 5 of them. And we've already kind of deal with a small group takeovers of subjects. So I think voters is a little bit safer.
I'll take a look at that when I'm redoing this stuff for the board to look at, clean copy.
And I think people would feel more comfortable voting for it. if you
Well,
said
because whether it's
voters.
whether it's mail-in or whether it's people in person, it's people, you're right, it's people who have voted, who have taken the time to vote.
Right. That's what should make your quorum. So thank you. I know everybody's tired. So am I.
All right. Thanks, Nancy. You have
Thanks,
a good
Nancy.
evening.
Thanks for sticking it out, Nancy.
All right. Anybody else for property owners' comments tonight? You can just use the raise hand feature in Zoom. I'm not seeing anything at this point, Mr. President.
Okay, thanks, John. And do we have a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, we'll go ahead and adjourn at 10:26.
Give
Thanks,
that
everyone.
to Linda.
Night, everybody.